Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another AIMBOT. Am I morally bankrupt or then? That is the question we are asking, and I hope you're well. Hello, Atheum. You are first. Big ol' hello to you. And hopefully we'll get more people trickle in as time goes by, but not a problem. This is I don't even know what, 43rd episode of AIMBOT Resurrected, so it's like the 50th we've done. I don't know. I'm not up to it. Usually I do start with a rant, and I do have a rant that I do want to make, and that is a ridiculous amount of resentment towards the government of Israel. Now, I want to be perfectly clear. It's not towards the people. In fact, I do know some people in Israel, and they are wonderful people. It's just the government is doing reprehensible things, and I am very, very, very mad about it. For a start, basically, one of the biggest concerns that I have is that they're using starvation as a weapon. So at least 6 have died as a result of starvation, which is horrific to start off with, absolutely horrific. And they are using more and more, basically, they are humanitarian aid rather than providing it to the Gaza, which is just horrific. So at least 6 people have died due to starvation. People were killed, sort of like including 27 trying to reach aid sites, just trying to reach aid sites. And that is something that has been confirmed by independent media, and that is horrific. They hit the Palestinian Red Crescent Society. Now that is something that is reprehensible, and I'll tell you the reason why. Okay, it's not just, well, that's some kind of, random organization. It's a valid target. The Red Crescent and Red Cross are protected under the Geneva Convention. Now, just something a bit more lighthearted. You can't use the Red Cross in any media, right? Fun fact: Blink-182 got forced to change an album cover because they put a red cross on it. They actually committed a war crime, right? They violated the Geneva Convention. The Geneva Convention says that you can't use no organization, no company, no government, nobody can use the Red Cross and the Red Crescent for anything other than what they were assigned for in the Geneva Convention. They are protected. Hang on, I can find that thing. Oh yeah. So they are protected under the Geneva Convention, right? So under the Geneva Convention, you cannot use them. So a lot of companies and media has got into trouble by I believe. And my wife was telling me Stardew Valley has gotten into trouble. If you're aware of the game Stardew Valley, they put a red cross on their medical center and got into a lot of trouble. They violated the Geneva Convention. So yeah, that you can violate the Geneva Convention. So this is the protection of Red Cross, Red Crescent kind of thing. You're not allowed to use them anywhere except as a part of the Federation of the International Committee of the Red Cross, protected under the Geneva Conventions and additional protocols. They're protected by international law. So even using that, but attacking a Red Crescent association is they have the same benefits as the Red Cross, which is that you cannot strike them in war. You cannot use violence against them. And the fact that they have actually struck the headquarters of the Red Crescent is 100% a war crime. So Netanyahu, who is the leader of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, he's already been sort of suspected of committing a war crime when he had soldiers rescue hostages pretending to be a Red Crescent organization, which is a violation of the Geneva Convention, because as I said, you're not allowed to use it for anything apart from that. But other countries are trying to airlift stuff in. Witnesses in this sort of massacre said that they were trying to access aid distribution stations, and they faced gunfire when they surged toward aid distribution. It absolutely terrible. And that's not to say that, hey, you know, the forces of Gaza have done everything right. No, absolutely not. They haven't. They're horrible. But when it gets to striking aid workers, that's gone way too far. That is way too far. You know, this is gone beyond a joke. This is the Red Crescent being hit by artillery fire. Yeah. Separately, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office says he has called local Red Cross officials, demanding they step in to provide food and medical assistance to Israeli captives. Yeah, well, it's kind of, when you blow the crap out of aid workers, they're kind of unwilling to go in to things. And, you know, two hostages appear emaciated. It's not like Gaza's doing everything right. But the problem is that you can't take it out on civilian targets. Yes, what they're doing is wrong. They should release the hostages, but they can't. You can't take it out on ordinary, you know, civilians and children, kind of thing. This propaganda video has come out from Hamas, who I have nothing but contempt for Hamas, but that's not to say that everybody in Gaza is Hamas. Like, you cannot just say, hey, it would be as wrong to blame all Israelis for what Netanyahu is doing as it would to blame all people in Gaza, all Palestinians, for what Hamas is doing, right? Or blaming you for what your government is doing. It's not right. Yeah, and there's horrible stuff happening there, and it breaks my heart. I won't go on too much about it, but sort of bombing the headquarters of the Red Crescent is the same as bombing the headquarters of the Red Cross. Like, it absolutely is. It is something that it violates the Geneva Convention in no uncertain terms. Like, absolutely does. So I really wanted to talk about that and why we have the Geneva Convention. The Geneva Convention started up in World War I as a response to some of the tactics that both sides were kind of using, the treatment of prisoners, the treatment of civilians, the horrible treatment of all kinds of people. So and World War II, of course, which sort of cemented them as entirely necessary. You know, it's kind of, the Geneva Convention is kind of a humanitarian effort. And as a humanist, I think that a lot of the time, some of these countries are just throwing this by the wayside. I don't, you know, some of them are for everybody's protection. You know, during World War I, they're sort of, there was a tendency to use things like the Germans using mustard gas, for instance, using chemical warfare. It would blow back on their own troops some of the time. And it seems nonsensical to sort of use some of the things of these treatments. Like, using chemical weapons today is absolutely terrible. Which is weird. And there's some weird things in it. I must admit that. But you know, so, for instance, tear gas would be illegal to use in warfare under the Geneva Conventions, right? Tear gas is illegal because it's a chemical weapon, but it's fine to use on civilian populations. There's a bit of weird stuff in there. because you're not supposed to use chemical weapons on soldiers, but there's an actual exception that you can use it for law enforcement, which is wild. So the Geneva Protocol of 1925 prohibits the use of tear gas and other chemical weapons in warfare. That was after World War One, where they had mustard gas, which caused incredible suffering. And but I mean, not even the their own soldiers liked using it. So not even the German soldiers liked using the gas in World War One, because it had, the wind would change and it would blow back on their own troops. It's absolutely horrible for their own troops if it blows back on them. So nobody kind of liked it, except for, of course, the leadership of Germany, who seemed to like it. So so tear gases, known as riot control agents, are chemical irritants that cause temporary incapacitation. They are used to control or disperse crowds, but their use in war is prohibited. So what's kind of odd is that the Geneva Convention has a ban on tear gas during wartime, but you can use it on a bunch of protesters, no problems at all, which is kind of weird. But it does have some good stuff in there, like the how to treat civilian populations, treatment of the wounded and sick, things that we would just accede to as humanitarian, and especially the protection of Red Cross at Red Crescent, and I think it's Red Crystal, where they don't. There's a third one where they don't agree on a Red Cross or Red Crescent. To be honest with you, the Red Cross isn't really a Christian symbolism. I believe that it's more got to do with the flag of Switzerland than Christianity at all. I think it's why is it a Red Cross? I think it's got more to do with the fact that it's Switzerland and Geneva is in Switzerland, and they were neutral, that they were sort of a neutral party during World War One and World War Two, because they sort of, were the ones to say, hey, shouldn't we have some rules around engagement, because this is getting really ridiculous. So it's to honor the Swiss rather than to honor Christianity, but the Muslim world didn't like it, so they came up with the Red Crescent. Okay, fine, right? It doesn't really matter. It just means that they're a neutral organization that tries to help and enforce the Geneva Convention. There's also places that don't accept either, and for that they use a red crystal, I believe. I think it's a red crystal. It's just a sort of diamond instead. But all three of those are absolutely protected under international law. And Netanyahu has bombed artillery struck the headquarters of the Red Crescent in Gaza, which is just, reprehensible. There's very credible reports that he's struck Red Crescent ambulances on their way to help civilians that have been hurt. It is absolutely at this point, if one got struck, I would I would understand. Sometimes things happen in war, but the amount of stuff that's happened, and add to that the headquarters, the headquarters for the Red Crescent has always been there, and the fact that he's struck that is the building doesn't move. They should know where that is and not strike it, because wow, I don't even know what to say to that. I have no idea. It's terrible, absolutely terrible. And I must say, even America, Donald Trump has spoken out against him, but, and I want to make this perfectly clear, that did not stop him from hosting Netanyahu, and when he called to strike Iran, he did it. You know, like he's giving mixed messages because he sort of says, you know, oh, this is really bad, but you know, he doesn't actually stand up to him and say, hey, no, you're not getting weapons, you're not getting this stuff. In fact, he goes and he's at his beck and call when he wants to strike Iran. He does so. Um, I don't know. He seems to be very, very weak, like incredibly weak. Um, yeah, I mean, apparently a whole bunch of like sort of retired security officials are pressuring him to try and stop this war. This is terrible. You know, but he's pushing sort of an all or nothing. Like you've got to completely surrender. No piecemeal deals is what Trump has said. You know, this is really, really horrible. I really feel for them. I really do. Remember, this war was going to be over as soon as Trump got into power. You know, you've peace and coming to a peace agreement is always a compromise, and apparently he's just not willing to compromise. He wants to, you know, Israel is being brutal when he's saying, hey, we're not going to, you know, come to some kind of, you've just got to accept 100% surrender. Yeah, yeah. So it's not Christian at all. Stop the stupidity. It's not Christian at all. It's just that's the Swiss flag. Yes, yeah. It's not a religious one, but you know I don't know why. I guess that it is due to the you know perceived Christian symbolism that they came up with the red crescent. It doesn't really matter. All that we need is just some kind of symbols to say, hey, these people are not engaged in actual warfare. They're just helping people, right? We've got to have some kind of um, um, preventative measure to say, hey, you don't shoot at doctors in warfare. You don't shoot at medical personnel. Like it needs to be there. Absolutely needs to be there. So, you know, the whole idea that, hey, you know, let's strike at somebody. And that's why you can't use the Red Cross, Red Crescent, the Red Diamond, Red Crystal for anything apart from what their designated use is. That's Red Crystal emblem. I think it's Red Crystal. I could be wrong. No, it is Red Crystal. It's like an open diamond. Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. Yeah, so you misusing these emblems is forbidden under international humanitarian law. So yeah, using getting a brand going and using like a red cross or a red crescent in it, you'll get busted. Yeah, yeah. Mm, pretty wild, pretty wild. But there's been a few people join, so I think that's my rant. I would love Netanyahu to have to go to the Hague to account for his crimes and do an independent investigation into what the hell has happened with all the aid people being struck there. It doesn't. It's not right. You know, I really think it's not right. Yeah. And sort of doing all or nothing. Like seriously, but Trump wants all the people in Gaza to move out, just move away, and that is genocide. It is ethnic cleansing of an area, and I think that is essentially what they are doing. They are absolutely doing. Um, Oh, I did not know that. But hello, Jessica. Netanyahu's. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I completely agree. But hello, Jessica. Good to see you. Hello, Stop the Stupidity. You were here before. All right. Well, you know, I Didn't get to get here. Yeah, I almost missed it. I got up late. I got to admit, I got up late. Um, Hello, Jeff. Good to see you. Sterling, good to see you, mate. It was never about hostages. Well, I think it was. I think. So we've got to separate what the sort of what the government's doing from what Netanyahu and the people aiding him wants, from what the country wants. So, all of these things are different things. And I think as far as the country was concerned, it was about the hostages. As far as the will of the people and everything, it absolutely was about the hostages. But yeah, I agree. For Netanyahu, it was never about the hostages. I think that it was just a convenient excuse for him. That he could make people angry enough to sanction ethnic cleansing. I think that for him it was, but not, for the rest of the people, they were absolutely outraged, and rightfully so, that a peace festival, a festival trying to support peace, had been raided, and all of these people, like, don't get me wrong, that was horrific what Hamas did. Absolutely horrific. It's not like Hamas is innocent in all of this. But to then go and attack the people of Gaza and starve the children of Gaza because what their government has done is reprehensible. There's no... When you talk about good guys versus bad guys, neither government is the good guy. It's not like we say, well, Hamas is the good guy and Israel's government's the bad guy. No, they're both horrible. But that doesn't mean that you attack ordinary people because of it. The ordinary people, they didn't choose for them to do that. They didn't, make them do that. It's just a horrible situation that they're in. But yeah, I do agree, Sterling. For the government of Israel, I don't, for the Netanyahu and his warhawks, I don't think it was ever about hostages. Hello, Skeptic Philosophy. Good to see you. Good to see you. Left-handed Jedi. So good to see you, mate. Trench warfare. Yeah, well, that was the whole idea, that the gas was heavier than air, so it sort of crept down into the trenches kind of thing. But absolutely horrific. Absolutely horrific. Hello, Robin. Good to see you. Hello, hello. Deviant Outcast, so good to see you, but Trump is the best negotiator. Yeah, no, he's terrible. I think we're seeing more and more, well, I guess I'm seeing more and more why Trump is, it doesn't surprise me that he managed to run casinos into the ground economically. Like, you've got these tariffs, which, we know from not only by all accounts, all financial people, all people that deal with economies are saying, hey, it's going to make, inflation worse, because of course it does. It increases the prices of goods and services. Absolutely. Because anything they get overseas is going to cost more. To portray it as a cost on the overseas government, what? No, it's a cost on the consumer, because those companies importing, say, let's say you're cleaning windows, right? Just something simple, you're cleaning windows. But if that company gets their cleaning products from overseas, it's going to cost more for them, which means that they're going to increase their prices, because they can't, your window cleaning company that just, is trying to make profit isn't going to be able to eat that. They're just not going to be able to. So they will increase the cost of their window cleaning service, as well as everybody else. And that can be used very specifically to increase, hey, well, we want to try and make them buy locally out of our country. Sure. But if that doesn't exist, or it's still cheaper to go to overseas, just say they still do buy locally. Well, if the company gets cleaning products, the ingredients for them from another country, then that's still going to increase the cost, as that increases the cost of them making the cleaning product, and then increases the cost of that onto the window cleaning. Like it is a cumulative effect. So specifically, you can encourage local purchasing, and that's great. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you do it over everything, what you have is just a jack up of prices because you're not doing specific targeting. You're doing everything. And then he wants the feds to lower the interest rates, which is going to increase inflation as well. Like it's so wild. It's wild. I can see why he has run businesses into the ground, because he seems to think that you should just tell people what reality is rather than actually, figuring out how things work. It's wild. I get it. It's wild. Misinterpretations, good to see you. Good to see you. King's Mason, good to see you as well. Yeah, it's wild how anybody can think that he's an absolute genius. It just, I don't know. He's running. I cannot. If you wanted to take down the United States, like really destroy it from the inside, I can't imagine a better way to do it. Like he has done everything which has damaged the United States and what made them great in the first place, right? So it's cultural identity. He's really ruined its cultural identity, like just saying, hey, who cares about freedoms and liberties and things like that? We need to get out these immigrants. It's treatment of immigration and solidarity with people coming from overseas. I mean, it's written on the Statue of Liberty, give me your tired and weak. And, that was one of the things that made it great. It's allies. He's destroying the allies that they have. He's destroying the strong economy that they have. For one person to do so much damage, I cannot imagine somebody doing a better job by design than this guy has done, ostensibly by accident. It's crazy, absolutely crazy. They shot. I think it's IDF shot 3 of the hostages who were waving white flags. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. The amount of ambulances that they've hit. At a certain point, you're like, this isn't a coincidence. And the reports we've had, not just from Gaza, but independent reports of people going to aid centers just to be attacked. Like they know it's aid centers. At one point, the IDF told the ambulances, go to this aid place here, and then they shot them. Like it's so bad. Wow. Well, yes, but you can kind of see it, can't you? Like if you instead of acknowledging what reality is and saying, hey, how do we run this according to the way, we ought to run it, like we should run this because it's a casino and this is how casino. If you say, well, I'm going to run it this way and reality will fall in line with what I want, you can kind of see how you can bankrupt a casino. Because yeah, all you got to do is just, run it, do marketing, things like that. But if you run it in a certain way that, your for instance, your expenditure is higher than your income, right? Your earnings, that you can bankrupt any business like that. Any business, doesn't matter what it is, right? Like if you just fail to pay attention to, oh, I see, you're calling it, yeah, okay, because it's not defending. Yeah, no, fair call. Well, I mean, we've got the ADF, which is Australian Defence Forces, and they're not always defending. I get why, yeah, but I get what you mean. It just is a little confusing, mate, that's all. But yeah, if you've got any business and you run it with a higher expenditure than earning, then you're going under. you're losing money. Like there's no way around that. But it seems like Trump wants to say no. It is what I say it is, and he fired somebody recently. He fired a jobs report person um, because they brought out a report that jobs weren't going very well. Um, yeah, so the Bureau of Labor Statistics Commissioner, right? Like, this is so I want you to understand what's happening here because the Bureau of Labor Statistics, it's not really with any political party. All it does is just produce statistics. That's all it does, right? It's not sort of, trying to make anyone look good. It's not, there as a partisan thing. All it does is produce the statistics on how the economy is going. It's kind of just a neutral thing, right? Um, and Trump fired them for not producing a report that's flattering to him. Right. This is the wild thing. And we have something similar. We've got the Australian Bureau of Statistics, right? Yours is called the Australian Bureau of Labor Statistics, or the American Bureau of Labor Statistics. Okay, cool. They just produce statistics. Um, you know, I yeah, I just yeah, I don't know. It's wild. It's crazy that Australia has a standing army considering the country hasn't been invaded in 230 years. Yeah, I don't think that's true, Jess. I don't think that's true. I think that there is a case to be made for an army having a preventative effect, right? That if we didn't have an army, perhaps we would have been invaded by somebody. Like there's no problem with having an army, and you hope that you don't have to use it. But don't forget that there has been things the army has done, rightly and wrongly, right? So I'm pointing to, for instance, helping in the Gulf War. That's an example of, hey, we were lied to and that should never have happened, right? The Gulf War was a complete lie. But you also have the East Timor invasion, where Indonesian separatists or Indonesian um, partisan fighters were killing East Timorese. And they weren't part of Indonesian armed forces, but they were attacking them. And the Australian armed forces went in there to basically protect the East Timorese. My brother was part of that action, and they didn't really fight because these Indonesian partisans weren't willing to go up against the Australian Defence Forces. I don't see a problem with that. I don't see a problem with having a defence force. But I do have a problem with one of our prime ministers sending it in against Iraq, who has never attacked us or any other ally, and simply, to do a regime change on somebody that America put in there in the first place on a lie that they had weapons of mass destruction. That's what I've got an issue with. Sending defense forces up there to protect the East Timorese against a ethnic cleansing, yeah, that I'm in favor of. Yes, the East Timorese should never have been put in that position. It's horrible. But that's two examples of where we can sort of use the defense force for it's stated goal, defense. Yeah, so Trump sort of he fired what's her name, fired the Bureau Commissioner of Labor, Bureau of Labor Statistics, Erica McEntaffer, just hours after a report that showing job growth was slow included downward revisions to recent months' numbers. Yeah, and he said it was political sabotage. What? he tried to frame the report as a political sabotage by a Biden appointee who faked the job numbers before the election to try and boost Kamala's chances of victory. Yeah, they make projections based upon... So they make projections, right, based upon the current economic indicators. And the projections are not like, oh, this is how it definitely will turn out. He implemented tariffs, which is going to cause a change, right? So then they come out with projections and they say, hey, job growth is actually slowing down because of an uncertain economy, right? Like, that's just what an uncertain economy will do, because the problem is that Trump's backflipped on these tariffs. He said it's going to be by this date, then this. It's very hard to do employment hiring if you're not sure of the costs of what you're going to be paying for stuff. It's very difficult to do. So it is the economic uncertainty which has caused a slowdown on jobs. And Trump's got nobody to blame but himself for that, right? He is to blame for that, because he is the one like, even if you think the tariffs are a good thing, he keeps changing his mind on how much they'll be, when they'll be implemented, which countries will be affected. So it causes economic uncertainty for the president to backflip like this. It just does. And so it's hard to say, hey, we will hire, 100 people if we don't know how to figure in, well, should we have this pricing for the overseas goods or this pricing? We don't know, right? And so when they do a projection, they're like, well, there's less jobs than we thought would be there because of economic uncertainty, so our projections change. That isn't faking data. It's just saying the projections have changed with the changed data that we've got. That's all, right? And you can, as a president, can say, hey, well, you project that. I think it will be fine, but this is a man that can't take any criticism. So he fires the head of Labor statistics. All they do is report statistics and make projections based upon that statistics. That's all, right? That's all they do. But, like, he's fired her because it's not good for him. And hello, Salhazari. Hello, welcome. And yes, that is a good point. If the only reason why the Labor statistics person is there is because the projections that they're making are acceptable to the White House, how do we trust that Labor statistics person? I mean, look, it would be like Biden firing the Bureau of Labor Statistics or some kind of statistics person because it says that, hey, inflation is high. Yes, inflation was high under Biden. It hasn't come down. In fact, it's gotten slightly worse. But if people are scared for their jobs, and this was a problem in Soviet Russia, right? That if you produced something that said, hey, the glorious nation of Soviet Russia was going badly, you'd be fired, right? Like, you'd be seen as, oh, well, you're not being patriotic to the motherland. Get rid of that guy. So the problem was that nobody was reporting the problems that Soviet Russia was having. Why? Because they would lose their jobs, right? This is a problem. And so accurate reporting, if you shoot the messenger, messengers don't turn up anymore. This is the problem, right? Like, people will not report the truth if you keep firing them. So this is a dumb move by anybody's account. It is absolutely silly. It would be easy to say, hey, I understand their concern, but, I have a great... I mean, the Bureau of Labor Statistics has produced all kinds of reports that presidents have just ignored. I didn't hear about this report until I'd heard that Trump had fired her for it. Like, I didn't hear about it. Obviously, it's not my country, but I don't think this would have been a big deal if Trump didn't fire her for it. Like, that's the thing that's made the traction. And it's not like they haven't, their projections haven't been wrong before. They sure have. It's just they project stuff. That's all. But yeah, that's my rant. And of course, firing statisticians is a really bad idea. It's such a bad idea. I can't tell you how bad an idea it is. All statisticians do is just get statistics and make conclusions based upon statistical data analysis. Sometimes they're not right. Sometimes they're in error because, due to changing circumstances, they can change all the time. We understand this. We really do. And to sort of fire them for it, why? I don't know. I have no idea. And it seems like a case of Streisand effect. If you're unfamiliar with that, the Streisand effect is basically it was named after Barbara Streisand. Like a helicopter took a shot of her house, right? Like an outside shot, took a shot of her mansion or whatever it was, and it was put up on the internet. So what happened was that she complained and tried to get that picture taken down off the internet, of course. Yeah, like good luck on that one, But the result was that a picture that nobody really cared about or saw got everywhere. Like it went everywhere. And so it was named the Streisand effect, where you have something that does not make a lot of social impact, and someone complains about it or tries to stifle it and stop people from looking at it, and that in turn amplifies it way out of proportion to what the actual problem is. So the best thing you can do is just sort of ignore it. That's the best thing you can do, because that Streisand effect is going to blow it out of proportion. What was it? There was a guy that tried to come in through US Customs, and he had a picture of Vance. It was a picture of JD Vance looking like a baby, basically, and they kind of, I think they refused him entry because of, sort of anti-government material on his computer. That picture then went everywhere. In order, trying to crack down on this stuff, you just amplify it. I posted that picture around just because somebody said, they were trying to stop it from being seen. As soon as I hear something is trying to be stopped from being seen, I got to see it, right? That's human condition. When they say, hey, we're trying, these people are trying to stop you from seeing this, you're like, I wonder what the big deal is. Go and look at it. That's a human nature. Hello, Andrew. Good to see you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah, absolutely, Deviant. I do agree. I do agree. And, I want to point out too that the Australian Army helps in a lot of situations, like when there's bushfires, when there's floods, when there's all kinds of stuff around the country. So the Defence Force, I think, I do credit them also with helping out in times of crisis in our own country. Right. When people are in trouble in the country due to some kind of natural disaster, they're the first ones there, and I want to credit them with that. Or, they're part of the first ones there. I think that is often overlooked, but definitely a lot. It is great. It is fantastic. But I think I've ranted enough. I'm going to move on. But yeah, I am absolutely pissed off about Netanyahu attacking the Red Crescent. Red Crescent should never be attacked. It is basically the Red Cross. Disgusting. Netanyahu needs to address this, not just say, oh, well, we'll look into it. No, you need to actually come through with rules of engagement and make your forces aware that this is absolutely unacceptable. This sort of look into it, no, come on. I think that Netanyahu should be held to rules of engagement. So, we're aimbotting. Let's get into it. Let's do it. All right, peeps, you're here for the aimbot. So what is aimbot? Am I morally bankrupt or them? We are going on to Reddit. Am I the asshole? We are going to look at some random, I have not curated these, they're completely random, postings from people asking whether they are in the right or in the wrong. or am I the arsehole? And we're going to comment on them. We're going to judge them. And please be aware, this is consensual, solicited judgment of these people. They have asked for it. I haven't curated these, so these are new to me, as they might be new to you. Which is great because we can just both look at them together. Now, I do love to know what people think, who people think is in the right and the wrong, but I love to know, I absolutely love to know why they're in the right or in the wrong. I use secular humanism and the principles of secular humanism to determine what's good for people or bad for people, but you may have a different opinion. You might do something completely different. You may use your intuition. You may base it upon values that you were raised with. I think it's all good. I love to discuss that kind of thing. But we will go through, and I will be holding a poll, because I love polls, to see what you think. And you know, I will go through comments and see what you think. Oh, that is good. Yeah, we have it's called SES over here, State Emergency Services, that do that. And yeah, I know a couple of people that have done that kind of thing. That really cool people, you know. SES people are awesome. If by address you mean surrender, yeah, surrender. Yes, yes. This is exactly what I mean. The International Criminal Court. Yes, absolutely. There has got to be some kind of responsibility for the. I mean, I think Jessica mentioned earlier. Was it Milanovic? Milanovic, I think it was. He was the Croatian guy. That basically he was, you know, sentenced for war crimes on you know the attacking. I think it was the Bosnians were the ones attacked, and sort of ethnically cleansing the Bosnians, and he did horrible stuff, sure, and absolutely deserves it. He is currently in prison in The Hague, being convicted of international war crimes. And I think that Netanyahu should face that as well. Absolutely. Uh, yeah, I think it was Milanovic. Anyway, he's sitting in The Hague. Yes, that monster. Yeah. Milosevic? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Slobodan Milosevic. Yeah, that's the guy. Yep. Yeah. Crimes against humanity. Absolutely. And I don't see, you know, yeah, breaches in the Geneva Convention. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. As I said, Blink 182, the band from Britain, Blink 182, violated the Geneva Convention. Stardew Valley, the game Stardew Valley, literally violated the Geneva Convention. I'm not even joking. Yeah, it was for silly stuff like basically putting a red cross in their game or on their album cover. But, you know, why is it they're being held to the Geneva Convention and, you know, Benjamin Netanyahu isn't? That's wild to me. Anyway, okay, let's get aimbotting. First up, soft chapter 7609. Am I the arsehole for refusing to pay rent at my uncle's? Oh, hello, Ember. Hello. Do you want not particularly? No. No, I would not like to. Thank you. Thank you. Am I the asshole for refusing to pay rent at my uncle's house after they took me in for 2 years? Well, was there an agreement? Like, did they take you in and what do you mean how? What, how they violated the Geneva Convention? Yeah. So if you like, so the Red Cross, Red Crescent, and Red Crystal, these three symbols are, you cannot use them. The Geneva Convention specifically says you cannot use them for anything other than the humanitarian aid organizations. So they are really reserved under international law for the Red Cross and Geneva Convention, basically. Red Cross, Red Crescent, Red Crystal. There's 3 symbols. You cannot use them in anything apart from those organizations, and using them when you aren't part of one of those organizations is a violation of the Geneva Convention. Its original reason was to stop people from pretending to be Red Cross in order to, like, for instance, I think that Netanyahu rescued some hostages by pretending to be an aid van and had his team inside of an aid van, and they went and rescued a hostage. The problem is that's a violation of the Geneva Convention. You cannot pretend to be a Red Cross. But so that's absolutely a war crime. Pretending to be a Red Crescent is absolutely a war crime. And the problem is that if people do that, then people are going to start firing on them because they think they're pretending. So you cannot do that during war. It is one of those symbols that you cannot do. But the Red Cross prosecuted and was forced Blink-182 to change their album cover, and Stardew Valley to change their medical center symbol because it was a red cross. You're literally not allowed to use it. So a lot of people have gotten into trouble by putting, say, the Red Cross as a, symbol on one of their books or on something, and they've basically been, they're in violation of the Geneva Convention. It's strange, but it's true. Like if you come out with an album cover with a red cross on it, you are in violation of the Geneva Convention. Weird, but true. If you bring out a book where it's got a hospital on it and the hospital has a red cross, you are in violation of the Geneva Convention. It's weird, but it's true. It's not really silly. It is just they want to know that red cross is only being used for certain representation, and that is by official people part of the Red Cross organization. And that is something that, it's important to them. And they don't slouch on it, because if we slouch on it, people will start using it. People start using it. No one trusts the Red Cross to be an aid. You see an ambulance with a red cross. Is it an enemy? They want to know that is never an enemy. That is never something to fire on. And the only way to do that is to make that symbol only used in one circumstance, and to prosecute people who don't, who pretend to have that symbol under the Geneva Convention. There's a very good reason for it. Okay, so look, after they took me for 2 years, unless you had an agreement, I think this one would be for me. Just at a reading of the heading is sort of like, well, if you were in your parent uncle's house for 2 years, and then later on they said, hey, you owe us 2 years rent for that 2 years. If I didn't have an agreement, I would go, no, that's completely unreasonable. Yeah, that's kind of unreasonable. I think that I would be saying like, hey, can we come to an agreement on how much? I think I would sort of say, hey, there should be an agreement. But if you didn't set that up to have rent, if you said, hey, you can stay here, and then said, well, you owe me rent afterwards, there was no agreement for that. Plus, how much would it be? You never agreed to it. So I think I have a problem with that. But I think having a compromise would be the best thing to do. But yeah, no, you're not. If they didn't agree what the rent was, you can't just proactively sort of say, hey, no, you now owe rent. No, that's not how anything works. That's not how anything works. Oh, the buyback thing in the Australia. Yeah. I keep having arguments with people how successful the buyback scheme was done, and what they've got to understand, it happened under a conservative government. It wasn't even the progressives that did that. It's very successful. I don't know anybody that talks, that gets upset about it. A fringe fair few people, but anyway. I, 18 female, have been living at my uncle's house, Adam, 49 male, and Melissa, 47 female, for 2 years. This happened after the sudden passing of my parents. Oh, that sucks. Yeah, so my mother and father died not together. There was like maybe a few months in between them. They weren't together, completely unrelated to one another. You know, the deaths, of course, were completely unrelated to one another. It just happened very suddenly, and it destroyed me. It was sort of like my mother passed first, and she was sick for a long time, and she had breast cancer and she was in palliative care. So that one I was expecting, but my dad just died in his sleep I think it was about 3 months later, and that ruined me. Like I was still recovering, and that ruined me. So I totally get it. Um, oh, in the former Yugoslavia after the war. Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, right. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, it's been successful here. Oh, absolutely successful. You know, I don't know anybody that goes, "Hey, that was a bad idea." Everyone's on board. You know, it's so weird that it was the conservative government that did it. But anyway, yeah, no, good work, Sterling. I really, um, it is. I totally get it, and I really do support it. You know, in the hands of people that have a responsibility. There are, registrations of them that we have controls over them. Like we've got more guns in Australia now than we did before that buyback scheme happened. The difference is that they have restrictions on where you put them, how you use them, how you store them. You know, it is now that every one of them is tracked. You know, like it has to happen. Okay, when they took me in, they were quite relaxed with me for a few weeks, and then they went back to their regular ways. They were a little strict, but nothing too extreme. Okay, there were some restrictions that were different, but eventually nothing ended up being a big deal. You know, at that point, I kind of, it depends. Like, a few weeks, after a few weeks, I would probably be saying, "Hey, can I contribute to the household?" That's me, right? I have, ever since an early age, ever since I started working, which was like at about 17, I had my first job. I kind of have contributed board to my parents, just not a huge amount, just a token amount, right? I've never lived somewhere where I don't contribute to the household ever in my life. Um, sure, short stays, sure, I totally get you. Like where you're staying at places for a few weeks, you're down on your luck. Sure, I totally get it. But past that, you really should be saying, "Hey, can I contribute to the household in some way?" Right? Is there something you want me to do? Because I guess I was brought up with, if you're staying at a place, you're contributing to the household, and you're an adult, you're contributing to the household in some way, right? Either you are doing chores around the house, or you are in some way contributing, right? Like, don't get me wrong, contributing to chores and things is very, that is contributing. Like, I'm not necessarily saying it has to be financial, but you should be contributing in some way. And an understanding between everybody. That's just the way I grew up. When I was 17, I was paying like, $50 a week rent or board basically. And that was fine. I worked for my dad earlier than that, and I paid board. Even though he's paying me, I'm giving him money. Like they basically really taught me that even if someone is paying you, if you're staying at the place, you give them back board. Like that transaction thing. So yeah. When they took me in the, yeah, they were a little strict, but nothing too extreme. There were some restrictions that were different, but eventually nothing ended up being a big deal. Okay, well, to me, that would be a big deal. To me, staying somewhere without paying anything would be a big deal. And to be honest with you, I think I've been taken advantage of in some places in my life, because I've sort of like done. But anyway, a few weeks ago, my uncle and aunt sat me down and asked me to begin paying rent, additionally with a little backlog. But I could take my time on that. Uh, yeah, a little backlog. Yeah, I see that as reasonable. A little backlog. I mean, yeah, if you come to an agreement, yeah, like Like how come to an agreement. Um, I told them I couldn't do that because I couldn't afford it. All the money I was saving was going straight to my college fund and to afford 2 years rent. How old are you? 18. Okay. To afford 2 years rent and every month now on would mostly drain me. No, you're basically saying you're not going to pay for where you're staying. No. Okay. So the difference in my country, I'm not sure about yours, between rent and board is that rent, you're paying for the house to somebody else kind of thing. Board means that you're paying for a room and a thing to the people owner. I mean, if they have to pay rent, like seriously, you've got to pay rent. Adam and Melissa just shrugged and asked me to figure out as best I can. Today at breakfast I told them I would stay with my boyfriend Elias, 19 male. His parents and him invited me to stay once they had heard me talking about the issue. They have a 2-story with 2 free rooms currently, so they told me whichever room I wanted was free. Elias and I had been dating for 3.5 years. I'd stayed at his family house often over the years. Okay, so look, okay, so I totally get it. I totally get it. You've got a boyfriend, they want you to stay with them. I feel like you should be contributing in some way. It's very hard to, like, when you're staying with a boyfriend, your entire relationship hinges upon you not fighting, not having. I think it's a thing, but I don't see it as a problem. If they want to say, hey, you're with him, you can stay in a free room. We've got a free room. We have a problem. No problem with that. Sure. I don't, I probably would say, hey, can I contribute something, right? Just something. As I was packing, Adam and Melissa came to my room to forbid it. What the hell? Forbid it? No, you can't forbid it. They're extremely conservative Christians and said it's not a good look. What the hell? Don't care if it's a good look or not. Don't give a crap. Not up to you. What the hell? They said I owed them something for the years they took care of me. Okay, so presumably she was 16 when she moved in there. Well, yeah, they owe. Wait, hold on. If you didn't make an agreement, yeah, I mean, you might come to, hey, I'm happy to pay this. But if you took them in at 16, which is a minor, right? I might add, it is a minor, and you haven't made any kind of agreement, and then they go to move out at 18, and you're like, well, you owe us. No. What? They were really great the 2 years I stayed there. Very comforting, very kind people. But I don't just want to give up my college dreams. I'm at my Elias house right now and honestly feeling bad, like I deserted them. They're really fantastic people. Am I the arsehole? Well, no. Like, if you didn't have an agreement with them, you didn't have but I don't know, like, if there was a 16-year-old needing to stay somewhere and I put them up, at 18, I wouldn't turn around and go, well, you owe us money. It's not charity if you're demanding money past the thing. Yeah, you might say, hey, I will, try and do something in the future. But, like, wow, no, I don't think so. Because as soon as it's like, if they said, hey, we'll charitably take you in, and there is a problem with this in some Christian circles. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of Christians are very, very good people, right? They're very good people. They will help people with no expectation of anything in return. A lot of people will. But if you say, okay, well, I'm going to take you in out of charity and then demand money, it's not charity, right? That's not charity. That is a business arrangement. That is paying rent for your place. I understand at 18 you would say, hey, you need to begin paying rent. If they go to move out, it's kind of tough. No, definitely not the arsehole in my opinion. But I will start the poll. This is really, and this, this isn't the first time I've heard this. It is a problem, right? It is a problem, an absolute problem, because basically um, Christians and other people of religion that will say, hey, we'll be charitable towards you. And then when you don't do what they want, and look, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying all Christians are like this. Most of them will just say, hey, that's charity. But some of them will say, hey, there's charity. But when you don't do what they want or you behave in a certain way that they don't agree with, they will go, no, it's not charity after all. You owe us. And that, it's kind of like when they sort of give out food, but they want you to do a sermon first, right? Like they will go to places with homeless people and say, okay, we'll give you food, but you've got to do this first. If it's not charity if they're asking them to do something for it, right? That isn't charity. That's an exchange, right? For not paying former um former, I'm going to put in quotations, parents, because they're not really parents, for rent over 2 years. Like, if they're basically saying, hey, in exchange for this food, you come and listen to this sermon and do a prayer with us. That is not charity. Okay, it's not charity. It is a quid pro quo kind of thing, if you will, something for something. That's not charity, in my opinion. That is expecting a religious observance in exchange for food. And this is the problem that we do get, that a lot of the charity that religions are accredited to isn't, in my opinion, charity. It is an exchange of something for them doing something, which isn't charity in my opinion. Let's see what Reddit's got to say. Reddit, conservative Christians who think you owe them for taking you in as an orphan. Such Christianism, much generous, such wow, not the arsehole. Yeah, I mean, not all Christians are like that. Look, there's a lot of Christians who have taken in people with no expectation of anything in return. That is just the case. But, conservative Christians who sort of, harp on about how generous they are and then do this shit. Yeah. I've got a problem with that. Yes. Just as I have a problem. I mean, some people do take in children to be generous and then work them in their family business or do something like that. They're just as bad. That's just as bad. Not the arsehole. They are not fantastic people. They asked an orphan to back pay rent, which wasn't agreed upon or indicated that would be expected. Did your parents leave you anything? I would check with other family that they didn't take it from you. That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, look, I'm okay with charging adult kids who are working at a nominal amount to contribute to the household. Yes, but back pay is next level. Yeah, absolutely. Do not give up your college fund. Yes, exactly. And for them to forbid you leaving because it's a bad look, they are not good people. Okay, so one of the things that sort of has occurred to me over my lifetime is that a lot of people, and when I say people, I'm including corporations, because corporations, in my opinion, are the worst at this, right? They are the fucking worst at this. They're not interested in being something. They're interested in appearing to be something, right? So that when a corporation is being generous and like, oh, we care about our customers, they don't, right? They don't. They actually don't. What they care about is being seen to care about their customers, right? Like, corporations are the fucking worst for this. But Christians as well, they're not good people. They're interested in being seen as good people, right? That's what they're interested in. Because if they say, well, we forbid you from leaving because it's a really bad look for us that you're leaving us, they're not actually good people. What they're interested in is being seen as good people by their community. So I see a lot of this. And as I said, corporations are the worst for it. They don't make decisions because of, any kind of, oh, well, we're good to our customers. No, they want to be seen as being good to their customers because it's a monetary decision. It's not a moral decision; it's a financial decision. So yeah, and because I've worked in corporations a lot, I've seen a lot of it. You know, people people doing things not because they're required to by the company, but because it's for the advantage of the company is just a huge thing in corporate world. Um, okay, zealous diet. They probably receive government benefits from your parents for you. Check into it. You're entitled to benefits from Social Security until you turned 18. I bet they already received the payment, and now that you're 18 and payments have stopped, they want money to keep coming in. Well, I don't know about that. I have no idea. Did they have any assets when they died? I have no idea. But yes, I don't even know who you'd talk to. I don't know who they talk to about that. It's wild though. I might be wrong, but as they didn't adopt you, they only had legal guardianship of you. You more than likely became a ward of the state, which probably paid your relatives a monthly fee to take care of your needs, similar to the foster care system. Okay. If that's the case, they've already been paid for everything, but it stopped when you turned 18. That's why they only started demanding payment then. You know what? There's a ring of truth to that. If they never adopted you, yeah, you probably would be a ward of the state. And if you're taking care of a ward of the state, then they probably did get payments. That is true. Hey, I'm going to upvote this. You've got a good point. And that's why they started asking for money when you turned 18, because at 18 it stops. Wow. Like I said, I could be wrong. I've no idea what arrangements were made after your parents died. That just seems the most logical though. Oof. That's worrying. If that's the case, then these are not good people. If that's the case, these are awful people. Print out the Bible, verse 1 Timothy 5:8, and stick it on a wall on your way out. Anyone who does not provide for their relatives, and especially for their own household, has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. Oh, wow. Okay, I got to remember that one. 1 Timothy 5:8. Denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. Yeah, and this is her uncle, right? That's awful. That's terrible. Yeah, I don't think they're the wonderful charitable people that you think they are. They're really fantastic people. Well, they may have seemed that way, but I'm not sure they actually are. Ugh, conservative Christians. Ugh, I swear. I swear. Every time, we hear stuff like this and it doesn't surprise me anymore. That's the problem. But, there's no reason to think that they are morally superior because of a goddamn book when they're doing shit like this. Terrible. Terrible. Let's see what everyone's got to say. Let's see the lovely people. Ember's in. Something silly. Um, oh, the UN peacekeepers. The mandate not to duck bullets but not return fire. Yeah. Yeah. Serbians, Eastern Orthodox committing atrocities against Croatians, Catholics, and Bosnians and Kosovo Muslims. Yeah, so I thought that the it was also sort of more racially, was it more religiously? Because that would be interesting to hear that the Eastern Orthodoxy Church. I'd love to see their position on that at the time. Just with that latest debate against Andrew Wilson, like he's sort of claiming, oh, well, you can't talk about all Christianity, talk about Eastern Orthodox. But, I'd love to see the Eastern Orthodox's opinion of that on the Bosnian massacres. Support. The church was generally supportive of Serbian nationalism. It emphasized peaceful conflict resolution and democratic process, which clashed with Milosevic's policies. They shared a nationalist agenda. Ugh. Church seeing itself a protector of Serbian identity. Patriarch Pavle, the head of the Serbian Orthodox Church, publicly denounced Milosevic and called for his resignation. Okay. It played a significant role in the 2000 protests that led to Milosevic's overthrow. No, that's fair. I get you, but they still were a nationalist organization, which is kind of, whoa, kind of frightening, really. Okay. Right. Oh, no, Jessica had the first comment, I think. Yeah, okay, so retroactive changes to an agreement, especially when there is inequality between parties, is always arsehole behavior. Yeah, yeah, absolutely, Jess. You are right, yes. Yep. Yeah, especially when one has the power to throw you out on the street. You know, that is reprehensible. Horrible. Yep. Andrew says, no, you can ask for rent after the fact for 1 and 2, no contract lease agreement. Oh, for 1 week or 2 weeks, yeah, no contract lease agreement. Then go stick it up your booty hole and smoke it. Yeah, I kind of think that. Stop the Stupidity said, this person's uncle could just say you owe me thousands of dollars out of nowhere. Yeah, absolutely. And that's why we don't generally sort of say, hey, we're going to retroactively apply rent. It has to be agreed to. It's nice to take people in out of nowhere, but saying you owe me money is wrong. Yes, it is. I think that, you know, I know that I started to pay board early, but I had a job. I think that if somebody, like I was at university, I don't think they would have required that. I think that, yeah, it's kind of like, well, if you have a 16-year-old at uni and you take them in, I'm not, you know, just saying, hey, you owe me money. Yeah, that's really wrong. I agree, STS, I really do. What did he, Sir Duckfisher says, what did he do to piss his uncle off? Maybe the guy got mad and he yelled something he did not mean. No, it doesn't sound like that, because she described them sitting him down, right? So they described a few weeks ago, my uncle and aunt sat me down. So that sort of suggests it wasn't just a knee-jerk reaction thing. I get what you're saying, but it suggests that it's not. It suggests that, hey, they've discussed it. Let's discuss it with you, which, you know, is a lot better than being yelled at by something. I moved out at 18 and never looked back, paid for everything. Yeah, I mean, I got kicked out at 18. So, you know, I worked at 17, paid board. Then I kind of, you know, was a bit rebellious, was a bit, you know, got caught up in weed and things like that. So, which is illegal here. So, yeah, I kind of went off the rails a bit and got thrown out at 18. Yeah. But, you know, it's for the best. For the best, I think. Emotional blackmail, says Jez. I kind of think so. Yeah. I kind of think so. This whole, oh, well, we're going to be seen as bad. Like, the perception of people should never be a concern of yours. You know, not if what you're saying is true. Like, your concern should be, like, am I saying what is true? Am I saying things that are not, you know, in error or factually incorrect? Like, I don't know why your uncle's reputation among the Christians should be any of your concern. Like, seriously. Looking after children isn't charity, it's mandatory, it's the law. You don't get credit for following the law. Yeah. Absolutely. Andrew says, to quote Bart Simpson, eat my shorts, Chris. Yeah, basically. Are they though? I presume this Sterling this is for you, sort of saying they're wonderful people kind of thing. They're wonderful people. I get you. Are they though? Are they good to people in their own group? And if they're not outwardly hostile to people outside the group, then that's them being good. Right, right. Because obviously, because she says, hey, they had some restrictions, it doesn't sound like she's conservative, Christian either. Right. So it sounds like they're sort of saying, we've got these restrictions because it's our house and we're conservative Christians. Sure, absolutely. That's fair enough. Like, I don't have a problem with that. But, are they only nice to people because they're conservative Christians? It's a problem. And I have read that report which says that atheists, they don't care if you're a Christian or a Muslim. They will be generous to everybody. And unfortunately, theists usually aren't. They have an in-group. Hashtag not all Christians. Well, it's important, Ember. It's important to realize that not everybody is doing these horrible things. It really is important. Religion is one of those things that we can be bigoted about. And it's important as an atheist to realize this, that if I say, hey, all Christians are this, that is bigoted. It is. Because you are ascribing to people behaviors that may not apply to them based upon a demographic, which is bigotry. So it is important. I think it is important. Sterling says, are Christians actually good people? Sounds like a question for a debate. Yeah, yeah. I think like any demographic, some people are good, some people are terrible. I mean, in the atheist demographic, we have people that are good and people that are terrible. That's fair enough. But it's pushing back against that completely unwarranted perception that exists definitely in the US, to a lesser degree in Australia, but I think that's because there's less Christians. But in the US, that Christians are good people and that atheists are bad people. There is this underlying social perception that says that, completely unwarranted, I might add. That Christians are good people, they will do the right thing. And what we see is the chat's glitching out, really. Okay. Hang on a sec. Chat is glitching out. Seems to be okay for me. Sorry, peeps. We're having a bug apparently in the chat. Oh, chat's screwed up. Oh, wow. Okay. Thanks, YouTube. Cheers. Yeah, so I think it really has to be pushed back on, because I've seen a lot of Christians do a lot of horrible stuff and a lot of atheists do a lot of wonderful stuff. So yeah, in some states, the people have gotten money from the state because the parents died. Right, gotcha. Jess says adults who can only see charity as commercial exchange. They want something in return, be it appropriate gesture of gratitude or wanting to control or monitor how you use their charity. Right, right. Right. I I I think there is so one of the things that that sort of I've thought about is anything really altruistic. Like, if you get a good feeling by doing something nice, is it actual altruism, or is it that feeling of doing something nice and getting a good feeling that means it is transactional? And I think that if you're just getting a good feeling, I don't see why that isn't real charity. Like, it is, they're not providing you with anything. So I think the idea of a quid pro quo is what nullifies charity. Like, that even if you're doing it to be seen as a good person, right? Like, you're doing it because you want a reputation for being a good person. I think that it is still charity because the person you're giving to isn't giving you anything in return, right? It's not getting you anything from that person. So, I mean, something that has thought about, I've thought about that, like, so if someone is being charitable because they want to be seen in a community as being charitable, is it really charity? Maybe not. But at the same time, people on the end of that charity don't care. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter why they're doing it to them. They're just helping. And that's enough for me. I don't, but is it really charity is a really good question. And I think there's a demarcation problem there. But I think I would count anything as charity when somebody isn't getting something from the party they're giving something to. If they're just going, well, I want people to think of me as good, I think it is still charity. But when you start to expect something from the party that you're helping, that's when it stops being charity and starts to be, an exchange. History might not be on their side. Well, yeah, no, I get you. That's related to that, debate on Christians good. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I can rattle off like so many instances where Christians have absolutely caused, no end of suffering to people. Absolutely. It's considered normal for kids to go off to college, no? Well, I don't know. I mean, presumably she's trying to save to go off to college and, live at college. I presume that that's what they do. That doesn't happen a great deal in Australia, to be honest with you. People usually go to, say they're going to University of Western Australia or University of Sydney or something. They will generally stay at home and just commute to the university. Like, usually there isn't that. But as I understand it, like, Ember, the United States has university towns where like the entire town is based on the university, which is weird to me. That's wild. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just weird. Corporations care about your money. Yes, they do care about your money. Kings Mason. I'm not sure I said hello to you, Kings Mason. I hope I did, but hello if I didn't. To be a Christian, it would require a definition of X. I've never seen one for starters. Who is this Jesus guy? One more time, more importantly, why do I care? A definition of Jesus? Well, I mean, to me, it's just a character in a book, like, and like any character, you can assign a whole load of things and a whole load of interpretations of them based upon your perspective. But yeah, I think the definition of a god would be more useful. Andrew says the ridiculous keeping up with Jones mentality. Yeah, just doing something to make yourself look good does not make you a good person. It's selfish and self-serving. Yes, in a way, yeah. But I think I would rather people try to look good and do good things than not care at all and not do anything good. That's the thing. Like, I will say, hey, that's not as altruistic as it seems. But at the end of the day, I don't really care why they're doing it. If it is the good thing to do, their motivation for it isn't something I will really care about that much. At least they're doing it. So yes, I agree with you. It is kind of selfish and self-serving. I will still encourage it. That's the thing. I don't care why they're doing it, as long as they are. I think that's important to realize. Ember says, have you ever heard the tale about how Subaru came to be associated with the lesbians? No. Lots of financial decisions to appear more pro-LGBT in an age where most dealers wouldn't sell to women at all. Okay. Yeah. Is it really that they support the LGBT, or do they support more money? At the end of the day, there might be people in Subaru that supports the LGBTQI, right? There might be people that do, but the way that they'd present it to the company is, hey, we can get more money if we're associated with these demographics. So, people can be, but the company itself doesn't care. The company itself is completely amoral. It doesn't have right and wrong. There's only one thing right, and that's making profit. Jessica says, adults who think they're entitled to know about and have control over your personal life, trying to have control over OP's dating and sex life is super creepy. Look, under 18, if you're living under somebody's roof, you may have to, do things that are in line with their requests. Like, unfortunately, that is just the way it is. Yes, we can go through and try to sort of second guess and try to force the parents to have restrictions that are more in line with social requirements, but I think it's a bad idea. I think that just, people have the right to place restrictions on minors under their house, under their roof. You may disagree, totally get it. It is creepy to have control over their dating life. I get you. But, I think that in your house, in the place that you live and you own, you should be able to determine what someone's behavior is if they're under 18 and under your care. We can't really violate that, unfortunately. But I get what you're saying. It is kind of creepy, yes. Oh, Ember's posting the same things. That was a fun glitch. Gotcha. Comments keep disappearing and reappearing. Okay. To check if it's a Subaru. You know what? Usually when someone's driving horribly when I'm driving, it's usually like a BMW or some kind of rich car kind of thing, some expensive luxury car. I think that some people that buy luxury cars in my state, I don't know if this is the same for you, but like buy luxury cars think they're way too important to use like an indicator. That's for the peasantry. When I turn, I expect everybody to revolve around me. Like, seriously, horrible. Andrew says, I'm an outspoken atheist and now I'm a bad person. Bet you damn near all Christians have never risked their life to save another. Well, maybe. Some would, some wouldn't. Most probably wouldn't, but most people haven't had to risk their life to save another, Episode of Friends, Joey claimed that all acts of charity are fundamentally just selfish. Yeah, I mean, there is that thing, Jessica. There is that position that, hey, if you want to feel good, then all altruism is essentially selfish because that is something that you're after. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like, just because you feel good, it doesn't matter, right? It still gets the same effect. So it's a really good question, right? It's a really good question, but I don't really think it changes anything about it. I really don't. I would say that altruism is when, it ends when you are requiring something from the party you are giving the charity to, right? There's also the in a societal level, there's the idea that, hey, if you do nice things for people and you do things, there's that pay it forward thing. Like, oh, if I do nice things, then maybe when I'm in trouble, someone will do something nice for me. That's still selfish, right? You're still saying, hey, I want to live in a society where if I'm in trouble, someone will help me, so I'm going to help people in trouble. You can make the very valid argument that that is selfish, right? But it doesn't take away from the validity of that charitable act or why it's a good thing. So that could be right. That absolutely could be right, that all altruism is selfish. And I don't care. I don't care because it is good for society. Is that an interesting question? But what if the good feeling is just a positive side effect of doing good and you are just compelled to do good even when you know it's a detriment? Well, it's hard, isn't it, Andrew? It's very, very hard. I think that most people have empathy for a reason. That is a really integral part, that when you're doing something that makes somebody feel better, you feel better as well, due to the way our brains work. And we know that the way that people who don't feel empathy, their brains work, they're not actually working correctly. It is a neurological issue, just as autism is a neurological issue. Like, as an autistic person, my brain does not work how it should work as a normal, sort of human being. Yeah, so I get what you're saying. But even if it's to your detriment, you can say that the feeling of being nice and somebody, doing well is higher than the detriment you're occurring? I don't know the answer to that one. I don't know the answer to that one. It's something that, yes, it may or may not be true. It may or may not be true. But this is all morality, right? So it depends on, what you're defining as good or what you're trying to accomplish as good. Does that outweigh a detrimental thing? Yes. However, in the long run, in order to do the moral thing, you can't just make everything to detriment of yourself. Because if, like, for instance, if you give to charity, fantastic. If you give to charity and make yourself broke and end up homeless on the street, you're doing a net positive, a net negative, right? You won't be able to help anybody ever again. So, everything to your detriment, doing things to your detriment might not be the right thing to do. And in fact, may be absolutely the wrong thing to do. But yeah, that's an interesting question, Andrew. It really is. And of course, Jessica bring it up in the first place. Very interesting. Kings Mason says off to college is no longer needed, so to speak. Yeah, and that doesn't happen in Australia, kind of thing. It really doesn't. It's kind of weird. Because I see these American shows, and I don't know how accurate they are, but it's like, oh, they're all in dorms in university or college or whatever, and they're all in dorms and living there and stuff. Generally, that doesn't happen. There are people that live on campus in universities, but generally they're international or rural students. They're rarely like, people that are living with their parents or whatever. Yeah, as Jessica says, you can back me up. In Australia, all universities are suburban. You can just visit campuses by taking the bus. There are no university towns like Oxford or Cambridge. Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? The weirdest university I've seen is Notre Dame University in Perth, where it's spread around. There's sort of a it's like a sub-city. It's like the city of Fremantle. It's like a town. It's part of Perth, but it's like its own area. And all of the campus is spread around Fremantle. Like it's not one campus. It's just all these places in this city. It's weird. It's weird. Okay, it's just strange because Fremantle was interesting. It used to be the hippie center of Perth, like all hippies and stuff. But of course that got popular and they kind of threw all the hippies out, and now it's, I don't know, very bougie, very, bougie, bourgeoisie. Parents are stuck in the 1920s. Damn, that's prohibition, son. That's terrible. Speaking of, there used to be company towns. Yes! Where the company owns the town, provides all the goods and services, and doesn't pay their employees in currency, but in company credits. Yeah, that is horrific. There's incorporated towns. Wild, right? Wild. Sterling said, I grew up in a village, so there was no college there. You had to go away if you want to get more than a high school education. Most just went to close cities. Yeah, and we have that. My wife, for instance, she lived in a town very far south. It used to be, 3-4 hours drive. I think it's a bit, faster now, but it's a fair way away. So she lived on campus. So, people from rural areas would come and live on campus. Last winter, a nice old man helped me get my car out of an iceberg. When I thanked him, he shrugged and said, I'm a Christian. Okay, well, I mean, yeah. Emmanuel can't strike. Can't. I'm shaking my fist right now in the Star Trek Khan thing, by the way. You can't see me on screen. To be clear, being Christian is not always nice, but also shows some folks that Christian can also be nice. Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think they realize, like, it's weird because they kind of trust Christians too much, and then Christians screw over Christians. It's pretty wild. Whenever they sort of go, oh, this person betrayed me, it's like, I know you guys say, hey, we're Christian, we're one brethren, but a lot of them aren't thinking that way. Like, it's kind of wild. I've seen it so often in the YouTube sphere where one bunch of Christians, are like going, oh, but they screwed me over. We're supposed to be Christian. It's like, dude, being Christian won't stop somebody from screwing you over, my guy. Like, I'm sorry to break it to you. I'm really sorry, but like, Christians are no more trustworthy than anybody else. I'm really sorry. You know, I'm thinking of, you know, the what is it, the Proverbs guys thing. They're always fighting among themselves and like, oh, he did this and it's just like, dude, what? Do you think you're something special because you've got a religion? Yes, yes, they do, which is wild to me. Apparently those guys have been talking crap about me for ages and I just haven't been paying attention, which is kind of hilarious to me. Because I don't like, I got into some conversations with this bunch of Christians and they sort of the head of them, or the leader, or the ostensibly the leader, apparently the leader, he was like, oh, you keep using footage that, you know, on our channel, and it's like footage that I have, that I was in. And he's like, oh, you know, you shouldn't be using our footage because of RUR. And I'm like, okay, well, I won't. That's okay. I just won't show up there. So I just ignored them. And apparently they were so angry about it. I don't know. It's weird. Am I the arsehole for not going back there when they said not to use their footage? I would say no. Maybe that can be. Maybe I should do a Am I the arsehole? Am I the arsehole? Did I mock my sister's religion? Look, religion isn't one of those things that are out of bounds of mocking, in my opinion. Like, so it's weird when someone has a religion, they'll say, don't mock it. And it's like, no, you don't get a special pass just because you're religious, right? You don't get an out. You'll mock others' religions, just not your own. Like, seriously, they will mock Islam all the time, just not their own religion. So I'm going to say no for this one. I think that, you know, religion isn't something that has a, you know, some kind of moral status that is outside your ability to make fun of. I really don't think it does. You know, there's other things that, you know, you would hope morally people wouldn't make fun of, like, you know, a family member dying or something like that. But religion? Not really. I don't know why it would be. It's like saying, oh, you can't criticize religion. Yeah, you can. Okay. Tashab 7676. Am I the arsehole? Did I mock? This one's more like, was I an arsehole, rather than, you know, yeah, exactly, Ember. Exactly. They'll screw you over, then get Jesus to forgive them. Yeah, exactly. I mean, last I heard, those guys over there, they were still having arguments and trying to bring them together in the brethren. And it's like, dude, if you guys are screwing each other so much, don't bring them together. Like, just go your separate ways. I don't, you know, when somebody annoys me in the atheist community, I just go my separate way. I just go, okay, well, you're going to do that. You go and do it over there. I'm off this way where I care about people and have a supportive community. That's fine. Like, I don't, you know, why would I try and bring them together? It's weird. Okay, this sounds like it's going to be perfect for my channel, to be honest with you. Did I mock my sister? My sister is Christian and I'm not. We were out to lunch with her family. She was saying my button-up blouse that showed no cleavage was too low cut and I was flashing the whole restaurant, which I was not. Oh, come on, calm down. Seriously. Hey, if you want to show a bit of cleavage, you do so. What the hell? What the hell? What is this? Like, seriously. Look, I don't even care if you were showing all the cleavage in the world. I don't care. Go to it. If you're not Christian and somebody else is, why are you behaving in a way that supports their morality when yours doesn't support it? This is the thing. You have no obligation to follow Christian morality. You have an obligation to follow societal morality. And societal morality may say, hey, showing your cleavage is fine. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. I'm all in favor of cleavage. I go for it. Now, how you're perceived by society, people may think that you're dressed inappropriately. You have to deal with that. You have to be aware that some people may think that. If you're fine with that, then go for it. If you're not, you may want to reconsider. But I don't have a problem with it. A lot of people don't have a problem with it. You know, what the hell? You know, I might even say that if I heard somebody at the next table say that, I would be like, why are you being a bitch? Like, seriously. Like, why are you being a bitch to your sister? Because she, you know, all you're doing is making her feel like comfortable about the way she looks. Wow. Don't like it? Don't look. Yeah, I'm right on board with you. I should have saved that till the end. But right, Jedi, exactly right. And I'm not averse to seeing a bit of cleavage. It's, you know, it's not like I'm like, oh, cleavage, better jump those. No, it's just like, hey, that looks cool. And then your attention's onto something else. Like, it's just, stop making this such a big deal. It's not a big deal. Somebody showing off cleavage is not a big deal. Stop it. Stop being weird, okay? Seriously. Oh, I made a comment trying to say she was a prude and said, calm down, Christian Mary. I'm not sure is that a zinger? It's not really that much of a zinger. Christian Mary? I probably would have gone for, okay, Mother Teresa, if you don't like it, don't be here. You know, like, I think, I don't know what Christian Mary would have been. Calm down, Christian Mary. Look, I would have paid better saying, calm down, Virgin Mary. You know, like, seriously. I think Christian Mary is a bit weird, but sure, okay, she tried a zinger. It wasn't the best. I can come up with better ones, but hey, I get the point. Like, your prudishness or your inability to see anything that is in remotely contradictory to your religion does not make it right or wrong. That's you. You can leave. Fast forward a couple of days, she told me her kids were offended by this. Her kids. Oh, it wasn't her. No, it's her kids. Oh, come on. Be serious. Because I was mocking their religion. Well, guess what? You should prepare your kids by saying, hey, not everybody believes in this, so they won't hold the religion sacred, right? Like, you've got to prepare your kids for other people not following their religion, and in fact, not granting it the kind of respect that you do. This is the real world. There's going to be Islamic people, there's going to be Hindi people, there's going to be atheists, there's going to be Buddhists, there's going to be Jewish people, there's going to be lots of people that don't hold your religion sacred. It's time to realize that and deal with it. My sister said she couldn't even remember the convo, but it obviously upset the kids and I need to apologize and never wear a low-cut shirt again because they're offended by it. What the? No! Am I the arsehole? Mind you, my sister and her husband frequently say, God damn it, when upset. Her kids watch The Simpsons. I plan on apologizing. No, don't apologize. Oh, please, no. But how do we go forward? Because she's acting like if I slip up again, I'm never going to see her kids. I feel like I already work on eggshells around them and it's hard to do. How do I talk about this? Because we both get worked up. Mediator. Yeah, I mean, it's used in a debate, but mediation's also used in conversations just to make sure, hey, we bring things down. We agree on somebody to, you know, hopefully somebody independent to say, hey, this has to be a conversation. Because she can wear whatever she damn well pleases. I feel like she's using her kids as sort of blackmail material, you know, like she's sort of saying, hey, it's the kids. The kids have to understand that your aunt isn't a Christian and she will not have the same priorities that you do. And while we believe in a certain thing, you cannot tell other people how to act. Like, this is a failing of the Christian parents, not educating their children on what religion is and its role within society. This is a problem, and a problem that's coming up a lot, because people are going, well, things have to be the Christian way. And everybody that's not Christian says, why? Why? If it's bad for people, then why? I don't think she should apologize, and I don't think she should tell her, oh, well, I'll wear things that are acceptable to you. Yeah. To quote a Weezer song, to quote a Weezer song, um, I'm not gonna wear the clothes that you like. I'm fine and dandy with the me inside. That was from Weezer's Pork and Beans, which I don't know. I've got a soft sock that song just because, don't wear what other people tell you to wear. Don't do what other people tell you to do. If they've got a point of why, but just because your kids who aren't even adults are upset because you are telling your sister that you're not going to wear what she wants. Oh, I would have some words for her. If you wanted to discuss it without getting worked up, have a third party mediator between you, just so you don't get worked up. Why should we be wearing what you say because of your religion? This is bullshit. This has made me mad. Hey, and the fact that she's saying, "Hey, if you do this, it upset my kids." She and you need to have a conversation with your kids that you love them, but you're not going to wear what they want because you don't. The kids don't get to choose what adults want, that what they should wear, and that just because they have a religion, it doesn't transfer onto other people. No, that is a problem. That's a real problem. Hold on, I'll do the poll, but I'm that's bullshit, quite frankly. This is the problem. This is the problem. These especially these fundamentalist Christians, they're raising their kids to say this is the only way to live your life, and if you're oh, I didn't do the poll off the last one. Okay, poster's in the right. I was wondering why I couldn't start another one. This is the only way to live, and if you're not living like this, then you need to change. You need to do something else. And they're teaching their kids to enforce that. And that's wrong. You can't do that. That is so wrong. Any more than I say, hey, religion's all fake, and if you go to church, you are in the wrong. You are a terrible person. You know, I can't do that. It would be wrong for me to raise a child like that. What I would be doing is saying, hey, there's people that believe in religion. I don't, but there are people that do, and they worship this God, and they take it very seriously, and explain to them, hey, some of the choices that they make is based upon the teachings in that religion and won't be what you expect them to be. That is preparing a child for the world that they will experience, because there is religious people out there. Not what I think the world should be. Like, oh, just go and, throw dirt on a church because, these people suck, kind of thing. No, we don't do that. Was the poster right for calling out, what did she call it? Christian Mary. And this is sort of, this is a consequence of your purity culture, not of ordinary society going in the wrong way. It's purity culture coming into conflict with the rest of society. That's what it is. And I don't see why it should. Like, I really don't. It's silly. I'd wager you wouldn't have called her Christian Mary if she had not policed your clothing, not the arsehole. Absolutely. My response would be, look, it's your religion, not mine. Yes. Yeah, this was really good. This absolutely, yeah, I upvoted. It absolutely is the kind of thing that we've got to crack down on. Attempting to call my shirt flashing or low cut is not even close to accurate. And attempting to force your religion on me and trying to control my body is not acceptable. Absolutely not. It's not your job to teach your kids to be understanding it. It's your job to teach your kids to be understanding and empathetic. Not my job to cater to that kind of cultural domination. They will have healthier lives in the long run if you teach them to be accepting as Jesus did his followers. Those last 5 words may be crossing the line, but this is bullshit, and reading this pissed me off for you. Yeah, no, it did me as well. But the problem I have is that she gets so upset about anything to do with her kids or religion. If you don't go along with it, she'll just cut me out, I'm afraid. Yeah, and that is the manipulation. That sucks. That makes me angry, because she is manipulating your feelings in order to get what she wants. She's my best friend and I love her kids, but it's exhausting. Doesn't sound like much of a friend, never mind having a best one, to be honest. Yeah, it's easy to say, but it's hard. Like, you know, and yeah, I kind of agree. With your best friend manipulate you like that, maybe she's not aware she's doing it. She's still manipulating you with her kids. Not the arsehole, lol. I doubt her kids even cared. She's just butthurt that you stood up to her. For the record, commenting on your cleavage in front of her kids is way more inappropriate than what you said. Yeah, I kind of agree with that, actually. You know, like, it really is inappropriate to, in front of her kids, say, hey, you're, showing too much cleavage, kind of thing. You're drawing attention to somebody's physical appearance in front of your kids. That's not cool. Not the arsehole. She can't police what you wear and call you a slut on the down low. Yeah, well, I mean, that's a bit excessive, but yeah, I get what you're saying. And then get upset when you make a joking remark about her prudishness. She doesn't get to control how you dress. Her kids more than likely don't actually care. She's just using them as a guilt trip. Don't apologize. Let her weird self be miserable. Yeah, don't apologize. Look, I don't know whether the kids were upset or not. I kind of take these as they come and sort of, whatever they say, I take at face value. It could be that her kids aren't upset, though I have seen, children raised in some of these fundamentalist families be more fundamentalist than their parents. As their parents have gotten older, they've kind of realized, hey, we can't do this. But the kids are just a mess of, Christian entitlement kind of thing. I have seen it, so I don't know which is true. It may have been the kids. It may not have been. I don't know. I don't know. Oh, that was only 3 hours ago. Look, whoever you are, look, Tashab, like, seriously, you don't deserve anybody apology for what you're wearing. If you had a nip slip, maybe, I get you. But, just for wearing a top that you like, come on. Stop. Stop doing this. Stop it. Seriously, stop pandering to the religious, sort of norms of your society. Who gives a crap? Wow. Wow. Ugh. Let's see. Don't like it, don't look. Yeah, no, basically. Ember says, not all of us can get cleavage to put in an appearance. If you've got it, do what makes you happy with it. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. If you want to wear, jean shorts and show off your legs, go for it. If that's what you want to do, go for it. I don't have a problem with it. Jess says, if someone's joined a religion for personal reasons such as fears of their mortality or substance abuse, that's one thing. It's a personal relationship between them and their God. Yeah, which is wild that they're sort of putting that expectation on everybody else in society is wild. And Jessica and I are both from Australia, where as opposed to what Andrew Wilson would want you to believe, less than 50% of the people here are Christian. It's mostly, and the thing is that Australians are mostly not Christian. We're still kind. We're still loving. We still care about people. From Australia going from a Christian nation to a non-Christian nation, people are more generous, more supportive, more, we've actually become a better country. when the switch happened, when that 50% was passed, it was like the time of, the Gulf War and stuff, where we were going to war, and based upon the Christian Conservative Party's decisions, we're actually better off being a non-Christian nation. But Christians have always had a problem doing purity stuff in Australia, because so much of the culture is based upon going to the beach, and girls wear bikinis and guys are wearing board shorts. Like it's so ingrained into the culture that they didn't even get a foothold in it, to this purity culture stuff. It's sort of nobody, like, seriously, nobody really cares if you're at a shop and someone comes in board shorts with no top on, kind of thing. It's like, oh, they were just at the beach. They were just at the beach. That's basically it. Hell, I love the restaurants on the beach. You get the seafood restaurants on the beach, and you get fish shacks and stuff. It's just awesome. Nobody cares. Nobody cares, okay? It's nothing. It doesn't matter. That's the thing. The weird thing is that when you are at the beach and everyone's in bikinis or board shorts or whatever, and they're swimming and having a good time, nobody stands out as being underdressed. That thing of, oh, they're showing something, it's only because you expect them to be clothed. Once everybody is doing it, it's no big deal. It's just not a big deal. It's wild. It's wild. Cleavage is why I like what I watch Mark. His head is like a one-sided cleavage. Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, I show off my head. I got to admit, I put a light on it. I'm just saying, you're all jealous of such a magnificent noggin. But hello, Yahooligan. It's nice to see you hassle me. I always appreciate it. Pro boobies, yeah, absolutely. Who doesn't like boobies? Those blue-footed birds, they're awesome. Jessica does add, but telling the people around you how to behave and act and dress falls under apostolic work, which by definition is engagement with the public, so it certainly can get criticized freely. Yes, yeah. If you're saying something publicly, then people have the right to criticize it publicly. I think that is absolutely true. I think, there's some restrictions on that, like if someone's being, apostolic and you're sort of saying Christian hate speech or something like that. I think there's some, calling for the death of Christian, fair enough. That should be cracked down on. But, criticism, should be able to be freely offered if someone's saying something publicly. I absolutely agree. Sterling says those poor kids. Yeah. Kids don't just suddenly go, oh, well, some clothing is offensive because there's cleavage. They have to be taught that, right? That isn't something they develop normally, right? No kid, no child grows up and says, well, low-cut blouses are inappropriate for restaurant. That is something that is taught to them. So at the end of the day, it's still her sister's responsibility and her fault, basically. Using the kids as... Look, STS, I totally agree. And sort of, you've got to apologize to the kids, or else, you can't... Even the suggestion that they're not going to want to see you, that's horrible. Being brainwashed as used as pawns. Yeah, well, I mean, the brainwashing is definitely something. They just call it indoctrination. They teach their kids that, hey, if you're showing your shoulder, it's inappropriate and horrible, and you're just trying to make people think of... Get out of here. That's indoctrination. Used as pawns, maybe. I wouldn't go that far. I don't know whether it's their reaction because they've been taught like that. I don't know. But it wouldn't surprise me if the kids didn't care and she was actually, the cause of this. It wouldn't surprise me. Sorry, back. Oh, no worries, no worries. I hope your son's doing well, Andrew. I hope he's doing well. Kids are the best. I don't have kids, but that's a personal choice. I don't have anything against kids. I'm kind of good with kids, but I don't really like taking care of them. I am good with kids, but I don't enjoy being with kids. So That's fine. I'd rather have an adult conversation than take care of kids. I'll tell you that right now. Sterling also adds, I'm going to bet it wasn't the kids who were offended until the mother told them there should be. Yeah, or, proactively in advance. She told them what is offensive and then they reacted how their parents taught them to. So either way, like I said, either way, it's the parents' fault, If you want their attention, mess around on the altar of a Catholic church. That'll teach him a lesson. Why is that sort of the altar is something that is really, you can't mess around on it kind of thing. I did not know that. Did not know. I mean, I presumed that the altar would be holy and stuff, but yeah, I don't know how Catholics work. The sense of entitlement to impose your preferences onto others at university and work. I've worked alongside heaps of Muslim men and women, and no one has ever tried to emotionally blackmail you. Exactly, right? And it's okay if they have their religion, right? Like, so the same way, we don't say, hey, you should take that hijab off because, kind of thing. That's an asshole, right? If you're saying, hey, I don't agree with your religion, so you can't wear that hijab, that's an asshole thing to do as well, right? You give them the respect to be able to wear what they want, in my opinion. And there is an argument to be made about the burqas and things like that. I get that argument, but if they decide to wear it, I don't think you can tell them what it's acceptable to wear and what not to wear. Just saying. Stop the stupidity. Kids are only saying what they've been taught. Yes. You love the beach. Me too. I mean, I used to go to the beach all the time. I don't anymore. I used to do surf lifesaving when I was younger, like 17, 18, but I don't anymore. Haven't done it for ages. But I did get my bronze medallion, which is the first lifesaving medallion. But I did enjoy the beach a lot. I think less so now, but yeah. Yeah, you've never been to a nude beach. And that's something I want to say. Like, I think, I mean, I've never been to a nude beach, but I think that sort of once everybody is in the same sort of thing, it doesn't become sort of any kind of... Oh, I forgot to start the poll. Hold it. And welcome to the unofficial Dapper Raid. Welcome, welcome. We are doing moral decisions here. It's okay. It is consensual and solicited moral judgment on people we don't know. Look, as soon as everybody is doing the same thing, like I said, if someone walks through in a nightclub in a bikini, it's like they'll get a lot of attention. But if someone's doing it on the beach where everybody is doing the same thing, it becomes less sensationalist. It's just normal, Okay, and welcome to Theology and Philosophy Discussions and Debates. If your ethical position ultimately traces back to a subjective stance, all you have is preference / opinion, no matter how you want to dress it up. Okay, so if the ethical position, so we have to talk slightly about metaethics. Basically, metaethics is what you're aiming towards, what you basically, so the ethical position will be the code of conduct associated with that society, associated with, some kind of group, right? So if your metaethics is the same across the group, like for instance, the metaethics of my civilization may be to provide people with a healthy, happy society and a flourishing society. From that point onwards, it's not really preference or opinion on what actually gets you to that goal. But it's not subjective, it's intersubjective. Because if it was subjective, I could change my ethical position or my meta-ethical position, right? I could change what I'm working towards, but that would not change the ethical position of that society, with ethics being across the society, right? So when you're talking about ethical positions, it is intersubjective, not subjective. Because if it was subjective, I would be able to change it, which I can't. If I decide that I want to destroy my society, I could change my subjective meta-ethical stance, but nothing would change about the ethical position or the meta-ethical position of that society. So that is untrue. It is intersubjective. It's agreed upon by all the people in the society. If you're talking morality as opposed to ethics, that's slightly different. I can change my meta-ethical position, but from what you've described, no, you can't. It is subjective, but it's intersubjective, not just up to one person's preference or opinion. And when you say all you have is preference and opinion, if everybody agrees on the same thing, I do take issue with describing it as all you have. What you have is an intersubjective meta-ethical position that will have some kind of objective means or objective ways to achieve that goal that are not dependent on subjectivity. In virtue of that goal, it's still subjective or relative morality or relative ethics, but you know, it's like a chess game. When you agree on the rules and the goal of chess, there are some objectively better moves and some objectively worse moves. As long as you can agree on these are the rules and, you know, capturing the king is the goal. There are some moves that are just better than others. So I really push back on all we have. No, it's not all we have is preference and opinion. Okay, what is the other? Big Mark hanging tent? No, I never learned to surf. I never surfed. I like can body surf. Body surfing's cool. I like body surfing. You know, but I never actually learned to surf because it wasn't something that was prevalent in the sort of social circles where I grew up. I did surf club, which is surf lifesaving, not surfing in general. So surf lifesaving is learning to, you know, a lot of swimming, a lot of using knee boards, like so boards that you're doing with your like you kneel on them and do. Doing things like CPR and EAR, which is cardiopulmonary resuscitation and expired air resuscitation. Using things like flotation devices, stuff like that, you know, things like that. And rowing, did rowing, by the way. Like they have these big boats that they row. So yeah, different scene, I'm afraid. Depends on the nightclub. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. But if everyone's doing it, it ceases to become sensational, I think is the thing. And welcome ONB. Magna Gloria are the powerhouse of the soul. Magna Crondia? Magna Crondia. Crondia. I know you're making a mitochondria joke, but okay, midi-chlorians are the powerhouse of the soul, don't you know? Just saying. Dapper's stream was doing the no inside joke display name things, but in the future of Mark's channel, it's not happening. Okay. No inside joke display names things. I'm not sure what that is, but I'm there for it. I know that we get joke, no inside joke, Dapper joke. He comes over a lot, so it's a thing. A unanimous agreement doesn't change the fact that it's simply a bunch of individuals agreeing on a... Correct. So it's up to you to show that the morality is in fact objective. Because even if a bunch of people, a whole bunch of people almost, and I wouldn't say unanimous, it's almost unanimous. I would say it is ubiquitous. It's generally agreed upon, but not everybody does. Then you have to show it is in fact objective, right? Because even if a bunch of people agree on it, doesn't make it objective. It has to be stance independent. Just because a bunch of people agree that ice cream is nice and delicious doesn't make it objective. So the onus is on the person claiming it's objective to show that it's objective. So go for it. Show that morality is objective. Because if you're saying, well, if morality isn't objective, then all you have are people agreeing on stuff and doing the best they can, that is not an argument for why morality is objective. What you're saying, it's called the argument, the appeal to consequences. The appeal to you're saying, hey, I don't like it if morality isn't objective. Okay, you don't like it if that's the case. Why is it objective? Because that is not an argument for it being true. Are you not assuming that all humans on a meta-ethical level have only a subjective stance? Yeah, that's what I'm assuming. That people can choose what they work towards, yes, and that people do choose what they work towards. If there is an objective thing to work towards, please, by all means, provide the evidence that it's objective and exists, because I've never seen that. I've never seen it. It's been showing just our channel name instead of a... Oh, gotcha. Yeah, no, that's a bug, apparently. I thought they were going to sort that out, but I don't know. Apparently chat's been going strange today, so like repeated comments being posted, you know, it's been very buggy today, so it might just be the thingo. You have to show alleged ethical system gain authority to claim this is true. Well, no, basically I just appeal to the argument from moral variability. Like, there seems to be a whole bunch of people claiming a whole bunch of objective morals, and they all seem to be different. The problem there is they can't all be objective morality if they vary. So it's not that I claim authority. It's just that, hey, we know that decisions can be subjective. I can subjectively decide things. If you're saying that morality is something that's objective, you really need to back up that claim, because you're leveraging me saying, hey, your morality is subjective or relative or whatever term that you're using. Sure, yeah, no, I agree. But if you're claiming otherwise, you know, if it's subjective, why are you leveraging against me if yours is subjective too? If it's objective, please do show it. Go for it. But we never seem to get that. Oh, got you. Yeah, no, yeah. Dan is sick of hearing. Yeah, Dan's awesome. Actually, I should be doing something with Dan soon, which was the last debate I did, which was just a wild bad creationist take. So hopefully I'll be doing something with Dan. As long as you're talking about Dr. Dan Stern Cardinal, awesome guy, absolutely awesome guy. I really have learnt a lot from him. Yeah, that's sort of Christian morality. Okay, and next up from Bonks12, which I don't know why I love that name, but I love that name, Bonks. I'll make this the last one. I am over a couple of hours, which I usually go, and I am talking a lot, which does dry out my windpipe. My voice box. Can we have an objective opinion? No, not really. Not really. Okay, am I the arsehole for telling my mother-in-law we will not be attending a party with a newborn? Okay, from the topic, no, not really. Look, there's some parties, like, if you're unaware, whooping cough is still a thing. You need to get shots against whooping cough, okay? It's still a thing. If you're going to interact with a newborn, I did not go to the sort of newborn party with a newborn in my family because I didn't have my shots against whooping cough. It can kill, okay? It can kill that newborn. So it's very important, incredibly important. So yeah, not be attending a party with a newborn. No, I think that's perfectly reasonable. But I mean, it depends why. If you just don't like newborns, okay, okay. I don't know why that would be a problem. I mean, it might be a little bit rude, but you're being an asshole. No, no. Don't atheists eat newborns anyway? Isn't that something we're supposed to do? Maybe it's because they're an atheist. Do you ever think about that? How did the previous poll go as well? That's something I want to check out. Poster is in the right. I agree. I don't know who would say poster is in the wrong. I fear it's somebody tripping up my thingo. Okay. My wife and I are in our mid-30s and my brother-in-law is in his early 50s. We invited in a couple of weeks to go to a party at my brother-in-law's girlfriend's house to meet his girlfriend's side of the family, and the party is a little over an hour drive away. I believe they have been dating for around a year, which normally we would be attending because my wife looks for any reason to spend time with her family, as we should. Fair enough. So it's the wife's brother to meet. Yeah, okay. But we have just had our second child who is only a couple of weeks old and we are really going through it this time. Per usual, no sleep, no time, feel like we are constantly running around, just a little bit of baby blues. Yeah, that sucks. That sucks. Nothing too out of the ordinary, and we are both exhausted. Not to mention neither I or my wife are really excited about meeting a bunch of people for the first time and having our baby there. Don't want to go through the hassle, anxiety of telling people to wash their hands or let people we don't know try to hold our baby. Yeah, that's fair. I've never had a baby, so I don't know. But yeah, that sounds like a hassle. Now, my mother-in-law is awesome and a superwoman. She and my mother split watching my toddler. Okay, maybe this wasn't written by AI. My toddler when we were working, and she does so much for us. Although my mother-in-law is in her 70s and she keeps up with my toddler, which is more than I can say for myself some days. Lol. Okay, this is very, very. When the subject was brought up about going to the party by mother-in-law, I joked that the only way we are going is if my brother-in-law was proposing to his girlfriend, and my mother-in-law didn't take that well at all. It was one of the only times my mother-in-law has gotten mad specifically at me for the more 15 years I have known her. Wow, okay. I tried to explain our position, and my mother-in-law is a type of person, if there is any way she can do something, or even if it is an extreme inconvenience, she will do it, and she has a hard time seeing why we can't be the same way. Later to find out from my wife that she doesn't think my mother-in-law would be able to go to the party if we do not go, because my father-in-law is in his early 80s and is starting to get uncomfortable with driving that far, and my mother-in-law only drives in town. Okay. Oh, look, I'm sure there's other ways your mother-in-law can get there. Seriously, just lash out for a taxi or something, or an Uber or something. Seriously, I don't know. On one hand, I feel really bad because my mother-in-law does so much for us as a family and I would like to keep her happy, but on the other, I need to do what is right for my immediate family, newborn, toddler, wife, and to be very frank, situations similar, but not as extreme as this happen at least a few times a year, and I'm really struggling setting boundaries with my mother-in-law, especially because I feel like an asshole doing so. Looking to the internet for advice. Okay, so parent burnout's definitely a thing, and you've got to be able to set boundaries. Just because somebody does things for you, if you can't reciprocate, like we sort of said earlier on the last one, it's not charity and it's not a altruistic thing if you're expecting people to do things back. I think that he's going, well, this is the best thing for my family. I don't see why he'd be an arsehole for violating that. I really don't. If he burns out and basically has a breakdown, and people have had breakdowns, like postnatal depression is a freaking thing. It absolutely is. You know, you can offer to help your mother-in-law with an Uber or something. Like, seriously, there's other ways to get around this. Just not being able to get there, I don't think he's worthy of being criticized. I think that he's trying to set boundaries for himself. The problem with violating your own boundaries, in my opinion, is that you always end up resenting people for doing so. If somebody, if you don't want to do something and somebody emotionally blackmails or convinces you to, or keeps, really going against your boundaries in order to get you to do things, you're eventually going to end up resenting them. You have no choice. Your boundaries are there for a reason. It's because that's what you're comfortable with. And you can get yourself around boundaries, but the problem is that you really shouldn't. That resentment will build up if you keep violating your own boundaries for somebody else. I get you. It can be the best thing to do for others. You've got to look out for yourself. If this guy does do all of these things and keeps doing them, and he sort of, breaks down, he's not going to be able to help anybody. And this does happen occasionally. So we've got to maintain our boundaries, what we're comfortable with. And you shouldn't have to apologize. And you're not being an asshole for just respecting your own boundaries. It's not a thing. I'm sorry. It just isn't. They have a choice whether to do things for you. If you say, hey, no, I can't go, it violates my boundaries. They have a choice whether to do other things for you. And you may have to accept that they might not come to your place when you're putting on something. It may happen. But, you still, if you're violating your boundaries, it's going to be a problem for you. So I don't see the problem with this. I will put up the poll, as I always do, so people can vote. And I will go through the comments as usual. Was the poster right for not attending? Okay. And I'll put that up. Vote as you will. Let's see what Reddit's got to say. But yeah, I don't think so. I think that, yeah, it's a very difficult conversation. It's something that you've just saying to somebody, hey, I'd love to get to the party. Look, I'm just not up for it. That is a fair boundary. It is totally fine. You can't expect people to do. Foxy Fellow says, bite the bullet and tell your wife she and her mother should go. You can stay at home with the baby. Wife and drive her mum and dad to the party. Will give her a moment to catch her breath and spend time with adults. She'll probably appreciate it. She's not avoiding. She doesn't want to be away from the baby. Not the arsehole, but come with the plan when one of you can keep baby at home. Yeah, that's true. You could do that. That's definitely a good thing to do. I don't know the situation. It's a great suggestion. Yeah. If she wants to go, absolutely. You don't have to. Like, this whole thing of a couple has to do everything together. Okay, you may be in a relationship that is, too entangled, or what do they call it? A codependent relationship, right? Your wife should be able to go and do stuff without you. You should be able to go and do something without your wife. It's fine. It's totally fine. It's great to do things together. You should be able to do things apart. Like, it should be fine. So, yeah, if she's fine with it, yeah, sure. I feel like you can use your mother-in-law as free babysitting. You could arrange some kind of transport for her to meet her son's in-laws. Is there really no one in your life who can give you a lift? Yeah, car service. Yeah, just get a car service. That's fine. That's fine if it's such a big deal. I think the same. Yeah, it should be doable. Not the arsehole, but if she does a lot for you, help with her, arrange transport if it's come for her. Right, and if you don't help her in exchange, you have to accept that she might not help you as much, right? That's the whole thing. You can keep that boundary, but if she does a lot, she may not do that in future, and you've got to accept that. Not the arsehole. Your brother-in-law can arrange for his mum's transportation to a party, or your wife can arrange, or both her kids. Do not expose your newborn to a bunch of randoms just to be a tax service to your mother-in-law. Yeah, well, I mean, you would hope that it's also to see, the family kind of thing. That what was the reason why? Oh, it's just to meet his girlfriend's side of the family. Okay. Well, I mean, it might be nice to meet your your possible brother-in-law's future wife's side of the family. Yeah, but like other things, it's not exactly a wedding or a funeral or something really momentous, like it is just a party to introduce some people to others. Yeah, I can agree with that. So yeah, I don't think it's necessary, but at the same time, try and help your mother out. Yeah, absolutely. I think that is a really reasonable suggestion. I think that's a very reasonable suggestion. Let's go through comments and see what you guys think about it. Objective opinion. I think the idea that it's an opinion automatically makes it subjective. Like that's the whole point. Um, you have to show. How did the ethical system going to throw to claim this is true? What do you mean? You have to like what? That's basic logic. That's not even ethics. What? Someone has to show him something? What? I what now? I'm sorry, like when you have basic logic and reasoning, it's that somebody that claims something has the burden to show that it's true. That's basically how things work. That's not morality. That's basic reasoning and logic. I what? I don't have to prove anything to you? Yeah, well, great, but that means that I won't believe you. That's fine. Yeah, what? There's no issue being presented. It's just if you're saying, I say, hey, morality is subjective, and you say, no, it's objective, and I'm like, okay, we'll show you that it's objective. You go, no, I don't have to. Who says that I have to? Okay, well, I don't believe you. What is this? What? Okay. Something true, but you can't show it. All right, well, yeah, I objectively believe the objective objectification is objectively objectified. Yeah, checkmate, atheist. Yeah, yeah. Well, the youth and fro, yes, I am familiar with that. Yes, the youth and fro dilemma basically points out, for those that are unfamiliar with it, it's basically asking whether morality comes from what God wants and says it is, or does it come from some other place, right? So if morality is what God designates, then that is still subjective, with the subject in question being the God. If it comes from some other place, then you've got to show where it comes from, or say where it does come from. You're kicking the can down the road, essentially. So if you're still claiming it's subjective, that means it can't be what God says it is. It has to be from some other place. What is that place that it comes from? And that's basically what we're asking. Show that it's objective. So yeah, it does relate to the youth fro dilemma. I'm not using it directly, but you're right, OMB, it does relate to that. Yeah, morally bankrupt. Yeah, no, so I'm basing it upon secular humanism, which I take my meta-ethical goal is human well-being. So the wellness of people, the physical, mental health, and societal health of any civilization or group. And so that's what I base it upon. But what I like to hear is why things are moral or immoral from other people and what they're basing it on. Because I think that I have quite a good handle on a argument of why we should make societies, people, humans healthy and well, right? A well humanity. That might not be of interest to you. Great. If you don't want an unwell society, go and make a society somewhere else, because I'm not interested in that. And most people aren't really interested in an unwell society. I think there's newborns of veal. Highly recommend rotisserie, crispy on the outside, moist. Yeah, yeah, that's the joke. That atheists are so bad. They have no morality, so they must eat babies and do all these terrible things when we do nothing of the sort. The idea that atheists are immoral is such a trope now. It's hilarious. Um, Ember says, I advise against having a baby. Those blasted things are heavy. Well, I'd expect so. I'd expect so. OMB says, or the brother could arrange all of that. Yeah, I mean, it's his party, sure. And if he wants his mother-in-law to come or his mother to come, sure, yeah, why not? Why not? My son pulled a Fabio. And I had the night I had to save the neighbor and 4 female officers walked it to talk to me after the incident. I don't know what a Fabio is. What's a Fabio? Postpartum can kick your ass. I'm not looking forward to that one bit. Yeah, okay, fair call. And stretching from looking back on chat, one of the theology fellows biblically bloke with a new name. Maybe, could be. Don't know. No, that's not morality. That's logic and reasoning. That's logic and reasoning. You can still ask for evidence of something in logic and reasoning. No, that isn't. There isn't. Like, you have no moral compulsion to show me anything. However, if you want to convince me, you're going to have to, because you have the burden of proof under reasoning. It doesn't get into morality whether you ought to show me something or not, right? There's no morality there. If I said, hey, you have a moral obligation to show me something, that's what you ought to do, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying you ought to. What I'm saying is, I don't believe you. That's what I'm saying. Um, yeah. Why is this conversation not making any sense to me? Oh, it's because he's totally on like a you can't have morality kind of thing. No. It's you that's not getting the point. You're not getting the point, right? The point is that even though I would like there to be objective morality, I don't think there is, right? Even though I would like it to be, because I don't believe things I would like to be true. I believe things that have logic and reasoning. Now, you can be irrational if you want. I'm not saying you have to be. I'm saying that's what I do. So I don't believe you, right? That I think that morality is subjective. You're missing the point. That your entire argument to me is, I would like it to be objective. You're missing the point. Why we ought to use logic and reasoning? Well, I use logic and reasoning because it's the most reliable way to get to my goals. If you're saying I don't want to use logic and reasoning, great. Good on you. But you've just said, well, why should I use logic and reasoning? Okay, you don't have to. Why would I expect you to? Because you are not using logic and reasoning at the moment. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you're saying. I really don't. You're basically going, hey, I'm going to be irrational, illogical, and basically claim something without any kind of demonstration of its truth, and you should believe me. Okay, is that morally I should believe you? How did you work that one out? Wow, wow, wow. Look, you can be an irrational and illogical as you want. It's just I've got no compulsion to believe you. Yeah, no, if your subjective meta-ethical aim is to make the world a much worse place and have people running around stupidly making decisions that have detrimental effects, then yeah, being irrational is the right thing for that outcome. But if you want a world that has humans full of well-being, then being rational is the right for that outcome. Okay, so you're basically saying that I want to be irrational because it's objectively true. I don't even know what you're saying. And guess what? Your system is an opinion you hold. Wow. Wow. All right. I'm over this because seriously, he's not getting what I'm saying, and he's not trying to. He's just saying, "Oh, it's all subjective." No. If you want a world full of people that are well and an orderly world where things are flourishing, you need to use logic and rationality, or else you won't get that world. Okay, it's not what you're saying it is. Okay, this conversation's over because you're not getting it. You're not getting it. Greater utility. Thank you, Ember. Somebody's getting it. It has a greater utility in people's well-being to believe in things that are true and to use rationality. That is all. Let's see. I want comments that actually have something to do with the actual stream. But you're being a real jerk right now, dude. This isn't a debate, so maybe you can have a debate on it, all right? Because I do debate, but this is a stream. So we'll leave it there. You don't think you have to show that it's objective. Okay, so I don't believe you. Just leave it there. That's about all. Because I don't see why I should believe something as much as I want to morality to be objective. It'd be great if it was, but I don't think, oh, Godwin's law comes up. Yeah. It's about, yeah, well, I mean, it is, but it's not a debate. It's not a debate. So email me, make a debate, right? Where you have a moderator and it's just, yeah. Because morality is a very, very hard subject. It's nuanced. But I was going to go through, I think I've done all of the, like, things that are referenced to, you know. Okay, Jess says, I used to have family members who, if they were going to ask me to do something for them in future, would start being extra nice to me in order to earn enough moral points. Yeah, that kind of sucks. That kind of sucks. Yeah, and that's where like I get what you mean. It's sort of like, well, if they do that, and you know, you know that they're doing that, you will resent them because you know you're being manipulated. That's going outside of, and they will resent you if you don't do something for them. If you know, and so I don't see that as altruism at all. That is sort of a reciprocal thing. Yeah, that is crappy. Yeah, absolutely. That is crappy. So Tony's still part XJW, part of the video team. Really? So he's an XJW, but he's still included in this stuff. You'd think that'd be leave it the aside kind of thing. Not the point, says Sal Hazari, but as a former pediatrician at that newborn office visit, I used to advise strongly against parties. Right, right. And like I was saying, like whooping cough is a problem and a thing. It's just, you shouldn't just assume that newborns should be able to interact with everybody. There is stuff. Personally, I wouldn't bother wasting my time. Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, it is a case of, hey, you're claiming something, not showing it. That's about where it ends, really, as far as I'm concerned. It's just a baseless claim at this point. Sterling Nash says, yeah, don't bring babies to parties. That's not fun for anyone, particularly the baby. Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a father myself, so I don't know what babies like and dislike. I would never claim that I do know. I presume it would depend on the baby, right? Some like attention, some don't. I don't know. Hello, Tori. So good to see you, Tori. So good to see you. OMB says, Jessica, sorry went through all that. My ex was doing that to me. I've done all this stuff for you. I never asked for any of it. I thought you were just being nice. Right, right. Exactly, yes. And it's sort of that expectation of reciprocation that is a problem kind of thing. I totally get it. When I do nice stuff for people, I mean, I've done a ton for people on YouTube just because I like helping people, because people helped me as well. That's the thing. There's a lot of people that helped me when I started YouTube, and I like passing that onwards kind of thing. I like helping other people, but I don't expect anything back. And that's the difference. These homosexuals in the fashion industry just want to see you in tight pants. Okay. Isn't that a compliment, really? Isn't that a compliment? Like, isn't gays finding you attractive a compliment? I mean, I get if there's certain things that are sexual harassment and stuff, but I don't know. If a gay guy I'm not gay, but if a gay guy found me attractive, I'm like, well, that's a compliment, right? If they think I'm attractive, isn't that a compliment? I don't understand some people. Any more than like if a girl finds me attractive and I'm not interested in her, I find that to be a compliment as well. I mean, yeah, there's some stuff that I'd go, oh, that's not right, but don't just take it as a horrible thing. Ember says, I don't think it's that much it is right to seek truth. Yeah, I read that out, sorry. Left-handed Jedi says, you are beating an equine corpse. I think so. Fresh debate. Yeah, I'd love a debate. I love to debate. Love to debate. It's about the Reddit post. It is, yes. But I love to know how people actually implement their morality, right? Because people like Alex O'Connor, for instance, he's a moral emotivist. He thinks they just base it upon your feelings in the moment. And I disagree with that. I think that some people do that, but that's not the best way to a meta-ethical goal, right? It's just to do what your emotions based upon society say at the time. So I kind of disagree with that. Other people disagree with me. Graham Oppie says that morality is, who's a very good Australian philosopher, he says that morality is based upon sort of physiological constraints kind of thing, but it is objective, which I disagree with. I don't think he's demonstrated that, but we can disagree. But what I don't like is people coming through telling me I have no morality and then not explaining how they're getting to their moral outcomes is kind of really crappy thing to do, because you're basically saying, well, you're wrong, I'm right, but I don't want to show it. Okay. All right. Whatever. Sure. Yeah, just keep pumping up that chest and, whatever. Oh, yeah, I'll just ignore them. Sterling Nash says, I think that they mean well-being is a determining factor and morality is arbitrary, which I agree with. Absolutely. Yeah, I do. I don't think there's anything objective about having a stance that well-being for humanity is important, or even your own well-being. Like, I get that, hey, psychologically you are impelled to think that way. I get that. But the fact that it's psychological means that it is stance dependent. We decide that well-being or flourishing is moral. I don't know what they're getting. Yeah, I don't know either. Yeah, same here. Yeah, like helping give. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And sort of people have said, hey, I think somebody said to me once, like, what can I do for you in exchange? And I'm like, pay it forward. Like, someone will cross your path that needs help on YouTube when you've been here a while. Help them, right? Don't help me. Help them. And I think that's a wonderful. I did like the entire idea of pay it forward. If you're unaware, it was a film. I think it was a book originally, but it was a film that a kid basically had this idea to do nice things for like 10 people and then tell them to pay it forward, like do 10 nice things for somebody else kind of thing. And that would sort of travel around the world. And I did like that. I like the idea of that, you know. Debates bore you to tears. No, that's fair. That's fair. I totally understand that. And you know, some of them are just dumpster fires, and I dislike them. You know, because they're not interested in actually talking about ideas. They just want to destroy the entire process so they can, you know, not have to talk about it. Oh, and I appreciate you, Andrew. Look, I know Andrew's offered to help me with things for no reason other than just he's a nice guy, like totally. So, you know, I appreciate even the sentiment, to be honest with you. But that is the last aimbot done. We shall get rid of that. Fantastic. So, yeah, so I think that yeah, so theology and philosophy discussions, if you want to debate, set up a debate. Like, what's the problem? What's the problem? Is it that you don't debate? That your theology and philosophy discussions and debate and you don't debate? Is that the problem? Because then I would suggest that you're improperly named. I really would. I really think it's improperly named. You know. And yet another person doesn't understand what arbitrary means. Like, so when you're talking about arbitrary, you're talking about without any reason, right? You're talking about with no reason whatsoever. You know, so arbitrary means with no reason. So even if I feel a certain way or I want a certain thing, that means it's not arbitrary because there's a reason. Arbitrary literally means for no reason whatsoever. So you are yet another person that does not understand what arbitrary as opposed to subjective means. Subjective is stance dependent. That stance may have a reason, right? Arbitrary means no reason. So you are using that word wrong. Okay? You need to understand what arbitrary actually means. Yep, correct. ONB is correct. Subjective and arbitrary are not the same thing. Correct. Yes. Yes. So when we talk about, you know, why we have the subjective stance of human well-being, it's because I'm a human. Okay, that's not arbitrary. That's not for no reason. The reason is I'm a human. That's one of the reasons why it is. Is that stance that humans are important subjective? Yes, it's based upon my stance, which is based upon the fact that I'm a human. The idea of well-being, it makes me feel good to be well, right? That's well-being. It feels good. Is that arbitrary? No, it's based upon a reason. I didn't just decide it for no reason whatsoever. I decided it based upon the feedback that I get that makes me feel good. They're not the same. They're not the same. So you are using it wrong. No, you are missing the point. You are absolutely missing the point. That you're saying that it's not subjective, but you're refusing to actually demonstrate that it's not. That's the point. And that's why I don't believe you. And I'm not saying you ought to show it, but until you do, I don't believe you. You've got to show it's objective rather than just claim it so. So show it and I will believe you. But if you don't show it, I don't believe you. That's how it works. That's rationality, baby. Why do you have to be rational? You don't. If you want to have a rational, well society, then you ought to be rational. But whether you want society to be rational and ordered and have some sort of basis for cognitive development is entirely up to you. That's subjective. If your stance is, I want a cognitively impaired life where I do things without any kind of explanation or rationality, that's your stance, which is subjective. So yeah, it's subjective. Look, if you don't want to use rationality, there you go. There you go. Yeah, so basically as a meta-ethical standard, I want to have, it's my stance to have a world filled with healthy, productive, rational human beings, because that gets me to human well-being, and which is the utility that I'm using. If I want a world that has healthy, rational human beings, so human well-being, if I want to do that, then I ought to use rationality. There is nothing, no problem with that. It doesn't violate Hume's guillotine. There's no issue with it whatsoever. So if I want a world that's well, a well society, then I should be rational. That's where it lies. That's where it lies. Because if I don't be rational, that will not get me to a well society. It won't. And it won't get me to a well me. If I don't be rational and go, hey, if I exercise, I will feel better. And if I want to go, hey, if I eat, supersize me everything, and that will get me to being healthy, and it doesn't matter because I'm irrational, that won't get me there. It won't. So that's why it's important to be rational. You seem very upset about this. What I don't understand is why attack me instead of showing that whatever system you're proposing is objective. I can only assume that you can't. Yeah, I'm not even sure it's an apologist. I mean, they didn't mention God at all as this objective standard. I'm probably assuming, but people can have objective standards without a God. They claim objective standards from, say, evolution or physiology or psychology, although I really push back on that one, because as soon as you involve psychology, you're kind of talking about subjective stuff, entirely. So yeah, now you're thinking of that documentary, you're welcome, Sir Little Wolf, you're welcome. Yeah, so, and that's where I think morality comes from. I'm happy to have my mind changed, but not from some person shouting in the chat. Like, please, have a debate, have an engagement, have a discussion, show how yours is objective, and I certainly will listen. But until you have actually shown something, yeah. Hey, Kip, you're joining just at the end, mate, but always love you being here. Always love your shows as well. Oh, the last thing, poster. Oh, absolutely in the right. Everybody kind of said in the right, and I agree. I think that if you're burnt out as a parent, you absolutely have the right to not go to any kind of celebratory thing. Totally get it. Totally get it. Yep. But that was AIMBOT. I'm glad you could join me. Thank you so much, everybody. Don't forget, you've talked to me before. Uh-oh. Who are you? Who are you? And what kind of madness did you sort of do? What have I stepped into? Are you apologetically, what was it? Biblically apologetic? I think he changes his name every 2 weeks or so. It's crazy. What was it? What was his last one? I don't even remember the guy. He's so wild. It was biblically enhanced or something. Biblically something. I don't remember. But yeah. I debate, I do discussions, so email me if you do want to set that up and actually have a discussion. But if you're just claiming, hey, my moral system isn't good because it's just subjective. That isn't an argument of why morality is objective. That is basically just saying, well, I don't like it if morality is subjective. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. It's like saying, well, I don't like it if gravity kills people. Yeah, you can not like it all you want. That's no reason to believe it's different. It's wishful thinking is what it is. JG. No, I don't remember you. I don't remember you in the slightest. I don't remember you in the slightest. Anyway, do be kind to yourself. Do be kind to each other. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.
She got